Before we begin this special episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast, we have breaking news. North Korea reopens to tourism in Rason. In a significant development, North Korea has reopened to tourism in Rason, its special economic zone located in the northeast of the country. The official reopening takes effect today, according to local DPRK partners. Tourism is set to resume immediately for Chinese visitors and other foreign guests, excluding American and South Korean nationals. Initial trips will last up to 5 days, with Chinese tourists able to enter using single special entry travel permits instead of full passports. Established in 1991, Rason was North Korea's first special economic zone and operates under a different visa regime, allowing for a more unique experience compared to mainland DPRK. Visitors can explore factories, the port, and even markets, making Rason a fascinating destination for those interested in the country's business side. However, it's still important to note that Pyongyang remains closed to tourism as Rason operates under different regulations. This reopening could serve as a trial for future tourism in the rest of the country. Stay tuned for more updates as we continue to gather information on this developing story. And now, here's a special episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast. On this episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast, it's not quite the thriller in Manila, but we're coming to you from the capital of fun, Manila, Philippines, and I'll be sitting down with multi-award-winning airline and aviation YouTuber Josh Cahill, and we'll discuss some of YPT's exciting tour destinations and more on this episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast. Okay, so we're wasting no time in this episode, and I'm sitting right here in a podcast studio in Manila, the Paris of Asia. You can tell that I Googled some nicknames for Manila, and I'm sitting here in person with our friend who, if you're interested in travel, you very well may already know, Josh Cahill. Josh is a multi-award-winning airline and aviation YouTuber whose airline review videos have garnered millions of views. It's interesting. You've been able to keep things sort of fresh across all your videos because you don't always do the same thing. Sometimes a video will be about what it's like to take the most luxurious flight on Emirates first class to inaugural flights like your recent Air Greenland flight, the first commercial flight, I think, between Copenhagen and Nuuk. Right? And you've covered the decline of formerly opulent airlines such as Qatar Airways. And this is probably getting into more YPT territory. You've shared your experiences flying sanctioned airlines like Iran Air and Iraqi Airways. So you fly coach, you fly first class, and pretty much evaluate any number of experiences that a traveler can have on any airline in the world. And I think that makes your content really unique. Would you say that that's an accurate portrayal of what you do?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. And I like the comparison, the Paris of Asia, Manila. I've never heard that before.
No, I hadn't either until this morning.
No idea where you googled
that. I must confess.
And I have to also point out that I am a little sick, so my voice sounds a little different today. But it's the real Josh on the podcast.
Well,
today.
I think it's probably worth mentioning. I mean, you just traveled across the world? I think 2 days ago you were in Greenland, right?
Yeah, 2 days ago I was still in Greenland, minus 20 degrees on an inaugural flight, or pretty much the opening of Nuuk. And now I'm here in the Paris of Asia, as you pointed it out. And here is like 35 degrees, and it's hot, and there's jet lag. And I know it always looks very glamorous, the YouTube life, flying first class, business class. I don't even fly that much business class. I spend most of the time in the back. How do you say in America? Coach. Yeah, we don't say that. Economy class.
So,
but it's a tough life, and people reduce it to those 15 minutes that they see online, and they think, wow, you must just enjoy yourself so much. That's a lot of emails, it's a lot of editing as well. When you have a big audience, there's a lot of nonsense as well, which comes with 99% of the people are lovely. But yeah, it's a good it's a good job. I like your description. That figures, and very much looking forward. I told Justin before, don't ask me any stupid and boring questions like what's your favorite airline or whatever. So I'm very much looking forward.
Well, that may be in there somewhere, but I've got it padded with, I think, we get a little deeper than
I hope so. That's well, very much looking forward to what you have prepared. But just so for the viewers, that's going to be. I said it's going to be a juicy one. So prepare.
Okay, all right. Well, I've definitely.
Justin, I know you are very.
I've thrown a juicy question in there. I've got it in my notes, and we see how far you go with that. Basically, you can take that as far as you want, and then that can open the door. We can close it. We'll see when that comes up.
We'll see. We'll see. There. Do I have like a joker, or like I can deny some questions or skip them?
You can.
Out of rules. I don't know how the rules are.
No. If you choose, you can just say pass. That's
a
fine.
Pass.
Yeah,
okay.
Pass on that one.
One pass each, then. Huh?
Yeah, and I'll definitely probably be using that for something. Actually, I wanted to. You mentioned, people think it's a glamorous lifestyle, and that you're just used to like bouncing around between time zones. I think you got here a couple days ago, and YPT founder Gareth Johnson was here, and the intention was for us all to meet for beers, but I think you were a little jet lagged, and Gareth was quite upset.
Getting a little sick, yeah. But if Gareth is listening, is Gareth actually listening to his own YPT podcast?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? So, Gareth, if you are listening, I love you, and we're definitely gonna have some beers very soon. But yeah, as you pointed out, sometimes you just, especially when you haven't slept, and then you have a jet lag, and then you're a little sick, as people can hear from my voice. You sometimes just pass out, and that's it. And then you wake up some very angry messages. But that's part of life.
It's all right. You're not the first one to receive some angry messages from Mr. Gareth Johnson. He's a lovely guy most of the time. But anyway, I wanted to start with, obviously we got to go through the boring stuff, okay? We got to do the intro stuff first. So, can you tell me about, your early life in Germany and your move to Saxony, and tell me what in your early life influenced your, interest in aviation and travel?
I think I'm very into history, so I love World War II stuff and such, and so I was very into the aviation part, the Battle of Britain, and all the Messerschmitts, and the planes that you had back in the days would have video games, and I just loved looking at planes. They were just beautiful, and I guess it just became more and more of a passion. And but I'm also I like to share my stories. I was a little filmmaker. I always loved taking the camera and edit it. And I thought if I combine the two things I know a little bit about, such as aviation and traveling and filming, I could just dive into that niche and provide airline content. And I never thought, in my wildest dream, I've never imagined that it becomes that big, there's 250 million people have seen my videos. That's a lot. People recognize me wherever I go now, especially in the aviation field when I board a plane. So it's been quite of a wild story, to be honest. And I'm glad it's. I'm still enjoying it. It's been 7 years now. But it's been quite of an adventure, as I would say, aviation adventure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about your pre-aviation travel projects. I think there was you attempted to walk from Germany to Shanghai, and then you were also the first person to hitchhike from Germany to Iran?
I wouldn't say I'm the first person to hitchhike to Iran, but that was something that I did as well. Yeah, I was. I don't come from a very wealthy background, and I dropped out of uni, and I didn't have much money, but I wanted to travel, so I was always trying to be very creative, and so I used couch surfing. Do you remember couch surfing?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, when you stay at strangers' couch, and
is it still a thing, or
I don't think so anymore. It was
too
really
many
big, and people freeload now and stuff, So I think back then it was very about cultural exchange, but
or did the Airbnb sort of replace?
I think everything is exciting in the beginning, whether it's relationships or it is something new, the internet. And I think couchsurfing attracted the right people in the beginning who were really into that, and they wanted to host people, get to know different cultures, or want to stay with locals. And I think at one point, then when it becomes too mainstream, a lot of people join that don't really have that spirit. And so there was a lot of people who just wanted a free place to stay. But I was still part of it the early days. I was a country ambassador for Germany as well, which is quite interesting. Met the founder, Casey Fanton, a few times. No idea what he does now, but so I did a lot of things when I was young. I was always a bit of adventurous, and I tried what works, what wouldn't work, and eventually found my calling or my passion in aviation.
So did you film these earlier
Not
trips?
really. I have little clips and stuff like that, but YouTube wasn't that much of a thing back then. And I was young. I was 21, and I just wanted to go travel and offline traveling, when you still really, there was no smartphones back then as well. So went to Iran, and I think it kind of changed my perception as well of the world, because when we grew up in the West, and they say, we're the good guys, everyone else is bad. And Iran was quite of an adventure, and everyone was so lovely and so amazing. And I think that triggered that hunger in me, especially for countries that have a very notorious reputation. And that's why my video is on flying airlines from fucked up. Can we say fucked up in this?
Yeah, we can say fucked up. Yeah.
In Germany, you can on TV. When American Hollywood stars, they come on German talk shows, they always use swear words, because in America it gets beeped out, right?
Yeah, but we're far from the long arm of the FCC, so we're okay.
That's good. Yeah, so fucked up countries. Yeah, I mean that in a funny way. Every country is fucked up to some extent. But So it's been good fun, and I think that is also part of my brand. Josh, the guy who flies airlines that people would never want. What's the slogan of YPD?
Taking you places your mother wishes you didn't go.
Yeah, no, replace places with airlines. Yeah. So that's kind of me.
Flying airlines, you don't want to fly yourself? Is that the...
No, I would. I don't mind that much, but probably others would be like, why? How would you fly this airline? Why? They're sanctioned, or you don't get spare parts, or, there's a war in this country. Yeah, all these kind of things.
Yeah, and it's easy for armchair critics, of course, I'm sure you get inundated with comments and things like that. But going back to that trip, so what route did you take exactly? How many countries did you go through before you arrived in your destination?
That's actually a good question, because I wasn't prepared for that. I knew it went through the Balkans, so Bosnia, Albania, and I think Albania was my first culture shock ever as well. And now it's such a popular tourist destination. Through Turkey, where we had to wait for 2 weeks to get our visa for Iran, and then through Georgia and Armenia into Iran. And I think it took 4 weeks to get to Tehran. And it was quite of an adventure. And then hitchhiked back as well. I think on my way back, I went to Turkey. I still remember being somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Iran by myself. I was 21 back then, and when I think about it now, it was quite exciting. Good times, I miss the good old days. When you were young and careless, the world was good. Now with 38, everything is just.
When you were young and your heart was an open book.
Yeah. I think life is much easier.
It's a Paul McCartney quote. But
there you go.
But it's similar thing. I think, was that your first big? I know this Shanghai thing was earlier, but was that your first kind of big international trip?
I think that was the biggest thing that I've done. I traveled a lot within Europe, and that was good fun. But that was an adventure, a brutal adventure in that sense, because hitchhiking is interesting. People get killed sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so did you
American
run
horror
in
movies.
Yeah, in American horror movies. I mean, we have the American horror movie about it, The Hitcher. It's an 80s classic starring Rutger Hauer.
I'm impressed by your knowledge. Paul McCartney.
We've gone from the Beatles to Paul McCartney and the Wings to Rutger Hauer. Anyway, I digress. So, I mean, did you run into any weird situations while you were out there? Were you
have the occasion
hitchhiking through the Balkans? I mean,
Balkans was not that bad. Like Turkey is wild. Like occasionally when you get, I never shared stories before. I was like, I just left Iran and I was there at the border, and then there was this guy, this Iranian truck driver who had a truck full of pistachios, I think it was, and he was going somewhere.
I mean, that's a movie right there. A truck full of pistachios.
Yeah, that's a good title.
That Iranian truck driver.
And he really wanted to touch my wiener.
Yeah.
Just, he wanted to be
awkward.
Funny. Yeah, it would be like he was trying to be funny about it, and I was like, why? And like, what do you think? Why? And at one point, I was like, he wasn't aggressive about it. He felt like, when you're in primary school and you touch each other's wiener,
right.
You're not gay, right?
Right. He was being jocular.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He thought it was a funny thing, but we just met, so you don't pull these kind of jokes. And I remember.
But you only do that with your close friends.
Exactly. That's. I mean, if I touch your wiener, you'd be like, it's a bit odd, but it's not gay. It's what boys do, right?
Right. Of course. Yeah. Boys will be boys.
Boys will always be boys. But yeah, I didn't have that close of connection with him in that sense, and I felt like this was really strange. So at one point, he dropped me then because I had to go a different direction, and I was very happy that I wasn't scared because he thought it was funny. So he wasn't trying to rape me or anything like that. But weird things happen when you are.
So after he dropped you off, were you looking over your shoulder? Were you afraid he was going to turn back up like in a horror movie?
Probably not. Like I saw it, like there was nothing. There was like the west of Turkey is just like it's not very populated, not densely populated. I was standing there and I wasn't seeing much. I was seeing the big Ararat mountain in the back where, according to the legend, Noah's Ark ended up. You heard that story?
I am somewhat familiar with that one, yes.
You good Christian boy?
Depends on the situation, but most of the time. So did you make any lasting friendships or connections while you were on there? Like, was there somebody that you traveled with for like a long portion
not with the truck driver, definitely.
Yeah, not with the truck driver.
We didn't stay in touch. I still have a photo. I think he wanted to have a photo after he dropped me off, and I was like, oh god, okay. I might have it somewhere.
If you have that, maybe you can send it to me. Maybe. We can feature it in the blog, the corresponding blog. To this, podcast.
I had to go through the archives of my travel back then. Yeah, no, I made some friends where I'm still in touch. The national coach of the Iranian paintball team, that was one of my hosts. Reza Sharan, I think is his name. I still have him on Facebook, and he's still alive. He was.
Is he still paintballing, or?
I should actually check his Facebook profile, but he was really into it, and they would play against the American national team quite often. And the Americans, they obviously can't travel to Iran, or it's a lot difficult, so they always had to meet in Kish Island. It's like a duty-free kind of island, like in the
like a Gibraltar.
Something like that, yeah. So Americans could easily travel there, and then they would fight against each other there. Yeah, he sounded very excited about it.
And had they beaten the Americans? I'm not up to date on my stats on the.
I don't know. I think you guys are quite big warriors, no?
Guns are a thing in our culture, yeah, but I think in Iranian culture as well.
It's always so funny at the Olympics that you never win medals in shooting and stuff because why? Why is that? Because you guys are pretty good at it.
Well, we also allow people to buy automatic firearms, so accuracy isn't. Maybe there's not as much of an emphasis on accuracy. You don't need to be.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, moving right along to some of the other questions. You started traveling. You're going to some pretty adventurous places. So at what point? I think it's 2015. You did your first YouTube video. So at what point did you say, okay, I'm going to try to do something interesting with this? And was it first it was just an experiment or a hobby, or was it always a goal to kind of build something lasting from it?
I had a blog before. Not many people know that. So I was just writing about airline stuff. I did 10 interesting facts about Lufthansa or air choreo, these kind of things, and I was like writing about it. I was really good with SEO and all that kind of stuff. So that was back then when I lived in Australia, and I moved to China. I worked for an airline there, and I had the occasional business trip. And at this time, remember Casey Neistat? No. Are you for real?
Wait,
You never heard of Casey Neistat?
No.
You're a New Yorker. You should. No, the godfather of vlogging.
Oh.
Casey Neistat. So, yeah, you know Paul McCartney. You should know.
I should know Casey Neistat.
Yeah, he is.
He's a New York.
New Yorker.
writer?
Yeah. Like over 10 million plus. Have you never really heard? Never heard of him?
I'm not. But what's his angle? What's the
vlogging? He was
like his life, or
yeah. He was daily vlogging and stuff, and he was. I think he had a show before that with HBO and stuff. He was like really like he's very popular. I'm sure you have seen it.
I probably have seen
the weird
it.
Glasses. Yeah, he was always.
Let me see. Hang on.
He was wearing his Ray-Bans.
Aha, Casey Neistat.
Casey Neistat. Yeah, I think everyone knows him.
Oh yeah, I've seen him.
Yeah. You're a New Yorker. You guys should know it. You're from New York, Justin, aren't you?
I lived in New York for 14 years.
Yeah.
Now I live in the Paris of Asia, Manila.
Manila, yeah. But yeah, so like Casey was quite of a thing back then, and he loved aviation a little bit as well. So he was doing blogs as well on airlines occasionally, and so you always think, what's the next bigger thing? You know, and when I had my website, I was thinking, oh, cool. Maybe next time I go on a trip, I film it. And that's how it started. And I think my first vlog was on, ironically, Qatar Airways, the first airline that also banned me. And
how far we've come.
Yeah. I mean,
and we'll get more into that later.
Yeah. But no, that was how it started. I think then China Southern, and like people started watching it and started to grow. I had like 5,000 followers by the end of 2017, and that's when my contract with that airline came to an end in China as well.
And what were you doing?
I was working in branding.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, quite a branding guy. Marketing, branding. That's what I did for a Chinese airline. And
that's good to know, and that's good background for people too. Because do you get like some armchair critics that are like, "What would you know about running an airline or managing an airline?" Or
yeah. Like I mean, there's always experts out there, you know. But I mean, we can talk about all this a little later. Haters and the armchair army. I mean, it's part of the game, anyways. But yeah. So no, I have I've been in the aviation industry for quite some years, and also in the service industry. I worked myself in very demanding jobs, so sometimes a bit critical on cabin crew, but that's because I think I was pretty good back then when I worked in hospitality. But yeah, that's how it started, and then my contract came to an end, and I had to make the decision, what am I going to do? And I thought, like, let's do a sabbatical, or like just take a few months off. I had a bit of money saved up, and 2018 in January, I went full time, and haven't left the YouTube space ever since. Now I'm finished my 7th year. You know, the difficult 7th year. That's when you usually
7-year itch. Exactly. Is that a thing? Is a 7-year itch like a thing? And
that's when you usually get a divorce, no? When you marry. So
is it also a thing
married,
in YouTubing and vlogging and all that?
Vlogging, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know in marriage it is, right? But I have not. It's still going strong. My relation is still working with YouTube. Yeah.
And I mean, so I think, when did you first travel with YPT? Was it North Korea in 2017?
North Korea, 2016, I think.
2016, okay.
Yeah, or 15 even. I don't know. Like, it's been a while, yeah. 10 years almost, no?
Okay, yeah, almost. So, yeah, that was actually the first year I went to North Korea, was 2015. But, and that was kind of my, like you mentioned, you went to Iran first, but that was my first big trip out of the U.S. I've been to Europe and Canada and whatever, but my first big trip was North Korea, which then kind of like, you know,
it's
after
an
that,
unusual thing, though, like for an American.
Well, but then again, Americans and America have an obsession with North Korea. I mean, so I don't know that the obsession necessarily for most Americans isn't going to result in them wanting to visit North Korea, but for quite a few it does, and I was one of those. I had become obsessed with it and had read I started watching every documentary, read a dozen books on it, and I just really wanted to see if it was like I had been
scared when how did you fly in?
No, I was more excited. Yeah, I flew in actually. I took because at that time Americans couldn't take the train, and which actually I think is still the case, but unless you know somebody. I took the Air Korea flight from Beijing. Walking onto that Air Korea flight, it was very much like, okay, your DPRK experience starts now, and you had obviously the branding and just like the retro look of everything inside. I caught a glimpse into the cockpit and saw the way things were kind of held together. Some things were
nice colors as well, right? Like distinctive bluish,
distinctive national colors.
Were you more scared about flying Air Korea or knowing the fact that you're about to enter North Korea? What was more?
I really wasn't scared at all. I was honestly just excited, I was excited and. Because then I'd watched videos and stuff. So even when they served the mystery meat burger and the domestic DPRK melon sodas and
how's the
stuff
burger?
Like that.
What do you think is on it?
It's one of those things. I like it to remain a mystery, and every time I've taken the flight, I've happily had one each time. I have a friend from Iceland who one time came and he boasted about the fact that he had two, and claimed that the Air Korea burger was the best burger he'd ever had. He also told the Koreans he would take a bullet for Kim Jong-un, which they just found more weird than endearing. But anyway, I digress.
So how many burgers did you have? Air Korea?
He had two. He had two Air Korea burgers. Yeah, it was rare because most people don't request a second one. They just eat it for the novelty.
Did he give you a second one? Did you ask for it?
He got one.
That's amazing. I should try that as well one day with Air Korea. If they still have the burger.
We're going to see. We'll see after the pandemic if they have the burger still. But anyway, I didn't mean to sidetrack us, but I was just saying, it's went to North Korea first, and that kind of got me interested in everything. So, but now you've traveled with us quite a few times. You most recently were on our Grand South Atlantic tour.
Yeah, that was quite I love airplanes. And I don't know if Rowan is listening to the podcast. He's really into trains. And then I ended up on a boat. And 35 days in the South Atlantic Ocean was quite an interesting experience. I thought it was going to be... I thought it was going to be a lot more fun, but sea days are difficult. I find sea days very difficult. But seeing South Georgia and going to the most remote island on Earth, Tristan da Cunha, was sensational. That was pretty amazing. And that was one of my many YPT tours that I've done. And Libya was one of them, where I always try to combine them with airlines. So Rowan always gets really annoyed at me when I said I don't want to fly with the group, but I have to be on this specific airline and I have to fly through this city to get there. But yeah, that's why I was trying to convince Rowan we have to do aviation tours, because I think there's a market for this.
Well, there certainly is, and there's a proven market for it, and there have been aviation tours that have been run in DPRK before, and so I mean, do you get a lot of requests for people that want you to review Air Korea and on your YouTube channel?
Oh, 100%. I think so. Yeah, I mean, Air Korea is. It is like the fleet that they still have and the way they maintain it. So there's two places where you can go or should go as an aviation geek. The one is Iran. Anything that is heavily sanctioned, thanks to America to sanction the world.
To the sanctions regime.
Yeah. So they come in handy for us aviation people because and Russia recently now as well. So Iran is under very heavy sanctions since 1979, I think the revolution was.
Yep.
And they still fly Airbus A300s and 310s and like the planes that you don't find anywhere else. So it's kind of a time travel. So now you're pretty much limited to Airbus or Boeing, which is really boring. It's like McDonald's or Burger King. It's kind of the same by the end of the day. There's tiny differences, but there's no, I don't know what fast food brands don't exist anymore and people wish they could have had them, back then, a burger of whatever chain. But now you're limited to do those two choices. And Air Koryo has probably the most severe fleet in the world with the Tupolevs, Ilyushins, and being able to fly them, that would be fantastic. And having an aviation tour to North Korea is the wet dream of every F-geek.
Yeah, and I think, it held out at the international airport in Wonsan, which hasn't been, despite being called an international airport, has not been used for international flights.
But never seen any international traffic.
But it's made a good venue for the aviation tours, which is fun.
I mean, you have quite some visits to North Korea, don't you? What's your number?
I have only actually been 3 times.
3 times.
It was one of those things where I'd gone as a customer and then was hired as a guide, and then we had the Trump administration put the travel ban on Americans visiting the DPRK, which went into effect on September 1st, 2017. And but that was notable because I think I was the last traveler traveling just on a U.S. passport to leave North Korea, because most of the Americans, as far as I know, left on September 1st that morning on an Air Korea flight at like 6 a.m. And I left on the train later that afternoon. So I did a blog about it called The Last American in North Korea, which where I kind of state my case for getting rid of the U.S. travel ban, because I think it's totally counterintuitive, counterproductive, reductive, and everything. So listeners can check that out, The Last American in North Korea.
They should. It sounds like an interesting story. But it's interesting though, like Trump and Kim Jong-un being best friends, you would think they would reverse this. Now with the new administration coming in, is there a chance?
There could be a chance, but it's one of those things where I don't really ever see it. I think it could be in place for a while, and I know that's probably not what our listeners want to hear, because we get messages from Americans all the time that want to travel to North Korea. That appetite is still there, and a lot of Americans who don't either understand that there's a travel ban or understand the consequences of violating the travel ban. But
what happens at the border if you show up with an American passport?
First of all, you'll have a tough time finding a travel operator that is going to take you. We'll take Americans that are traveling on a second passport, and that's not an issue. So you can use your second passport to travel through North Korea as an American. If you have you're an American with an Irish passport, an Italian passport, those are like a lot of the common ones, it's fine. But so yeah, as far as China and North Korea are concerned, it's you're good to go. But from the point of view of the U.S. State Department, it's not like the Cuba ban where you can get around it or whatever. It's the wording is quite clear that you can be charged with felony misuse of a U.S. passport and be fined, face prison time, or have your passport revoked for life. But then again, none of the main travel operators that are taking taking Western tourists to North Korea will take an American just on a U.S. passport. It's just not going to happen. You could probably find a Chinese operator that would take you, but in order to navigate that, you'd probably have to speak Chinese, and that would come with its own set of challenges and everything. So and again, so to your question, I don't really, I think State Department bureaucrats, I think they love it. I think, because that's why it continued to be renewed under the Biden administration. It absolves the U.S. State Department of having to do anything or get involved if an American goes and is detained in North Korea. They can just wash their hands of it and just say, well, there was a travel ban and you weren't supposed to go there. There's only one instance that we know of a...
But don't Americans love to come and rescue their citizens from abroad? That's part of your identity.
I mean, you would think so.
Hostage crises are always the big moments of...
Well, it did take them quite a long time to solve the Iran hostage crisis.
444 days.
That's right. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So you've done your...
I love history. I'm into hostage stuff.
Yeah. So, Carter couldn't do it, but Reagan solved it pretty much right away. So, I mean... it absolves the State Department of having to do anything, and I think that's why we continue to see it getting renewed. But to your last point about Kim and Trump being friends and their love letters and all that, I think that... Well, for the Biden administration, it was just convenient. For Trump, I think he sees it as very integral to his legacy, and he doesn't want any Americans in there doing good work. So, unless it's him or his people, so he doesn't want Americans in there doing NGO work, running a bakery, teaching at any of the universities there, things like that.
It's a very interesting point of view. I never saw it from that perspective, but it might be.
Yeah, I think
that's the spotlight, and he doesn't like to share it.
Exactly. So I think that's the main thing. But that's why even if, talks are pretty much non-existent right now. But even if they are renewed, I don't know that I'm too hopeful about the travel ban going away. Anyway, We've digressed. We've gone all the way to the DPRK U.S. relations. So just going back around to your career. You've gained a remarkable number of views. So how does it feel? Knowing that we've touched upon this a little bit, but how does it feel like knowing that you reach such a vast audience, and how is it like engaging with your audience on that content? And was it
I guess it stands a little testament for the viewpoints or the opinions that I share. I think it was a little bit different because when I entered the market, it was more like, there's those influencers who get free flights and they say whatever you want in order to make it a PR piece. I think I'm more of a probably, I would rather say aviation journalist in that traditional sense, like holding airlines accountable for the promises they make, and for the reviewing part, which is part of my content as well. And the media quotes me quite often, and all the good ones, and I think. When I hear what happens behind the scenes as well, after I publish the videos and what impact it has, so I think I do a pretty good job in that sense, and you sometimes have to remind yourself that nobody watches your stuff if you don't know what you're talking about, and if you aren't a great entertainer or you have bad content ideas. So, and that makes me quite happy, because there's a lot of critical voices sometimes as well, especially when you're outspoken. And but as I said, like 99% of the people, they love the content, and there's always this 1%, and they're usually quite loud, those voices. But when I speak a lot with like industry professionals, whether it's the CEOs or like the important people, and they love my videos, and they use them a lot. Like a lot of airlines use my videos for training purposes, and or they do their research on what cabin they should get. They don't have to fly all these airlines anymore. They can just see on my channel what's happening. So yeah, like by the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with how it went, and I think it's a little bit of a little success story.
I mean, are there any days that you're like, I'm not going to do this shit anymore?
Oh, 100%. Many days like this, it's a lifestyle. It's tough, like you have to make sacrifices in your personal life as well, and it absorbs everything. Like you are 24 hours, 24/7, you are in character pretty much, and you have to do so much behind the scenes as well, emails and editing. And as I said in the beginning, it looks glamorous on the videos, but it's a tough life, and I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. But for now, I enjoy it, and as I said, the videos help to improve the industry to some extent. I mean, I don't want to give myself too much credit. We were able to save lives as well. But Afghanistan crew, but I think we're going to talk about this a little later.
Yep.
And so I'm a very positive person, and I try to look at the bright side.
That's good. And I mean, getting into, you mentioned the behind the scenes. Let's just talk about that a little bit. We're getting all the boring stuff out of the way. I promise we're getting into the more interesting questions down the line.
Behind scenes.
But the behind the scenes, I mean, so tell me about when you first started, kind of like what your gear package looked like, when you first started doing your videos, how you were editing them and creating them versus like what it looks like now. I assume you've upgraded your gear. You have probably something of a team. How has that changed?
First of all, I don't have a team at all.
Okay.
Quite interesting. It's still a one-man show. It's just because I am really bad at managing people. Like, I'm really bad at this. I had an editor for a year, but because
when we met last year, you mentioned that you had an editor.
I had an editor, but it's just you still have to look after him in that sense that you have to want to get your ideas across on the video, and you actually spend as much time telling him how you want the video, and at the same time I could just do it myself, and it's a lot easier instead of he was based in Sri Lanka, and then you have to send voiceovers and stuff like that. During that time I could have done it all myself, so I do it all myself, which is fun. I don't treat it as a business. It's more like, it's still like a hobby, and that's how I see it. I don't want to be overly professional, but I started with a GoPro 2. They didn't even have display. It was a terrible camera. And now I upgraded. I think I have the latest GoPro. Use my phone quite a lot. Back in the days, like 8 years ago, nobody would film on their iPhones. So that's...
Well, you're at the point where we can do that now with the quality on the iPhone and everything. And I would think that using a GoPro, using an iPhone, I would have to assume that makes your life easier. Because, obviously trying to go onto an airplane with a pro consumer camera or a cinema camera or anything like that is going to probably trip some alarms with the...
That is true. And actually GoPros are really small, but nobody says anything if you film something with your phone. It's so socially accepted. I was in Turkmenistan, another YPT destination, so make sure you go there. It's an interesting place. And I was there for 17 hours in transit. There was nobody. It was just me in the entire airport and the airport hotel. They wouldn't let me leave the country. Nobody transits to Turkmenistan, but I wanted to feature Turkmenistan Airlines. And so when I had the GoPro and would film, they go, no, you can't do this. This is deleted and stuff. Or Nigeria. Have you ever been to Nigeria?
I haven't been to Nigeria, but I did see your video on... Is it Air Peace?
Peace. One of the channel's favorite airlines. Yeah. They hate you filming there. But the funny thing is, when you're in Nigeria, you take a selfie. So let's say I film an airplane. They would come up to me, the securities, and you have to delete it. If I would film myself in the airplane, which is considered a selfie, nobody would say anything. It's really funny. But no, with the phone, you can film a much more discreet, and it helps you in certain situations, especially in Iran. When I was in Iran, I did that Iran Air video. So but I wish in the future they're already there. You have those cameras and the Ray-Bans. Have you seen these ones? Yeah, I think I should upgrade to them as well.
You're gonna upgrade, so totally hidden camera kind of.
Yeah, but that's a bit creepy, as well. I think it's weird. No, that's
Well, I think it's because I think with that, you might get on the one hand some better content, but I think it's also very telling, about the airline, seeing how they react to you filming, and obviously a lot of that can have to do with the political situation, or it can also have to do with the quality of the airline if they don't want you filming because they know that they're that they're doing a shitty job, and so they don't want it filmed. Probably in the case of an Air Peace, but then with Iran, it's probably more informed by the politics of the country, right?
Yeah, in Iran, it's people get arrested for filming at the airport, right? So, and after I did a video on Iran Air, and it had 4 or 5 million views. It was been quite viral, And the airline reached out to me afterwards, or somebody from the airline who was following me on Instagram, and he was like saying, Josh, cool video. We put together a task force to work on the shortcomings because it was an awful flight. But like filming at the airport wasn't good of an idea, and you don't do that. You embarrassed the authorities there a little bit. So if you come back, you most likely will get arrested. So no more Iran Air videos or Iran Aviation tour, which I always wanted to do. Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. But at least they gave you a heads up.
Yeah.
That's fairly polite.
That's very
rather
nice.
than you rocking back up and
but still, like, I mean, I know what you can do and what you can't do, and I knew that I really like pushed the boundaries there, knowing that if they really see me film, that I could get into big troubles. But sometimes you have to take a risk a little bit. But in that sense, I was just like so amazed by all the old airplanes that I saw there in Tehran at the airport that I was still very into it. And I had a bit of an Argo moment when we took off from Tehran, because there's so many securities, sky marshals on the flight, and it looked very scary. Like,
so did you see any police cars chasing you down the runway?
No, nothing. Luckily.
Right, that's what happens in Argo, right?
Yeah,
Aren't they pursued right up to when they take off?
Exactly. No, it wasn't that. But like once we left Iranian airspace, I was very happy. I mean, we landed in because you can still turn around. They'd be like, "Oh, come back, guys." But the second we touched down in Frankfurt, I was very, very happy that I'm still able to continue my YouTube career.
And was that Iran Air or the Mahan?
I flew in Mahan Air.
Yeah.
And a funny story, when I checked in, the station manager in Dubai of Mahan Air follows my channel. So he gave me an upgrade. And I was allowed to go to the flight deck during the flight as well, and they treated me really nicely, and that was quite even the security guard was told not to say anything about me filming, so that was pretty nice. Yeah, Mahan Air is an interesting airline.
Yeah, Mahan seemed to be a lot more into it and welcoming, whereas Iran Air, I mean, as you put it in the video, you said everything smacked of a state-run airline.
I think that's a problem with state-run airlines. Yeah, Mahan Air is, though I don't know, sure, the involvement of the state is quite big in Mahan Air. Mahan Air is a lot more sanctioned than Iran Air, because apparently it has really close tie to the Revolutionary Guards, and they're smuggling weapons into Syria and all these kind of incidents. But they still have a very good onboard product, so. It's not like that they just sit down there and wonder how can we smuggle ammunition into whatever country that is.
How can we look good while we're doing it?
Exactly. Right? It might just be a really good cover-up, or there are really smart people who sit there and say, hey, let's make this a great airline. Why not? It's... That's Iran, and that's what's probably so interesting about it, That's mysterious.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and you kind of touched upon it, but I'm sure you get these questions. How can you fly the, airline of a sanctioned airline, or airline of a axis of evil country, or this and that? But, and obviously, so talking about, ethics and things like that, can you share the story behind organizing Afghanistan's first all-female Cam Air flight, and what was that experience like for you? And I think also the question you get a lot is what has happened to the staff on that flight post-Taliban retakeover of Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the Afghanistan flight was something very special. I had a couple of visits to Afghanistan before, and I was always in touch with the airline Cam Air. The CEO there, he's Akash, I think his name was. He's from India. He's been working with them for a long time, and he was reaching out because he saw my first Cam Air video, and then ever since we were planning to do something. And then they had a young Afghan pilot join, Moadese, and when I came back to Kabul, he said, "Oh, let's do something." And then I was like, how about we make something really special, meaningful, why not have an all-female flight? That'd be probably something cool, something significant. It has never been done in Afghanistan. And it would certainly make great headlines, not from a woke kind of perspective. People think these kind of all female and equality, but it's more about inclusion and women in aviation.
Right. Well, inclusion with women in aviation, and it also just shows the progress and now difference is simply a difference in life in Afghanistan under the Taliban and not.
Absolutely. I mean, there was at this time there were no Talibans, like in at least in the government, and I think you guys spend so much tax money there that why not have some good news coming out of Afghanistan? So we organized that flight from Kabul to Herat, and then we flew back. We couldn't even make an announcement on the flight because they're just so conservative. If they knew that there were 2 female pilots, Afghan people wouldn't feel comfortable. They still have that mindset that a woman belongs in the kitchen. Right, and so it was quite significant. Like, we took that photo. I'm sure you've seen that photo with the crew in front of the plane. It was very meaningful.
It's a classic pic. Classic Josh Cahill photo.
Is it a classic Cahill photo? I'm not sure. But when I left for the airport, I said the photographer, camera, sent a guy with me, and he said whatever you need. And I said, I need that $1 million shot.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I got it. Right. It's still I have it printed out. It's in my studio. So it was very significant because then I published on March 8th is always International Women's Day, so I published a video just in time, and it made great headlines. It was all over the world, and it sent out a great message to women in Afghanistan, especially, and it shows you that everything is possible. If you just chase your dream. And Moadese, she was, I think, just 21 at the time. And she was the first Afghan commercial pilot. And she became also, there was, BBC made a list of 100 women of the year, and she was one of them because of the video. So it was really great. And because then a year later, the Taliban wasn't even, I think it was even the same year, wasn't it? In September 2021, when Kabul fell. I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was 2021, but you can Google that. When obviously I've stayed in touch with all these girls, and it was always, for me, they were more than just a story. They were my friends, and I gave them the spotlight, and for me it was important just to see how they're doing and how they're progressing in their careers. So when Kabul fell, I was in very close touch with the girls. So Moadese was the young pilot. There was Shagufa, who was also part of the cabin crew, Nargis, and which we were all then really worried about. And interestingly, Veronica, who was the other female pilot, she was the captain actually in charge. She's from Ukraine. And when the Taliban overran Kabul, they were on their way to the airport, scheduled on a flight. Do you remember the pictures of this of the Afghan people on top of the airplane?
Yeah.
So they were supposed to be on that flight that was bound for Istanbul. But it never took off because people there was all those scenes of people trying to climb the jet bridge and getting on this flight because everyone was so desperate to leave the country. A little bit closer to the camera HQ is at the airport, and there's hangars and stuff, and there was one 737 sitting there. It was operational, but it had a couple of issues. So what they did is they got that plane ready. And at the same time, the Taliban were just at the airport taking over. And at the same time, all those C-17 Globemaster of the U.S. Army came in. It was an absolute mess. So they went to that 737, got it. They didn't even a jet bridge. They had to climb in there through I think it was a catering truck and something like that. They went to the flight deck, and there was still a few things that weren't working. So it has a lot of issues, that plane. But they thought that was only take it out of here. ATC didn't exist at this point anymore. So they went on that plane. They had guns on the plane as well. Like, very interesting story. So they got the plane running. Then they taxied to...
And this is the female flight?
That was before the female. That was after the female. That was the night Kabul fell.
Yeah. And it was August 15th.
August 15th.
Yeah,
it was, exactly. And so I was in touch with them always, and I was like, "What's happening?" And they say, "Oh, we're here now at the HQ. We don't know what. Like, we're supposed to get on that Airbus A340, but now it's overrun by civilians." So they went on that plane, tried to get everyone on there. Who were able to escape. There was no ATC at this point, so you would just taxi, hoping that you would avoid obstacles, civilians. And at the same time, the Americans came out of nowhere. An incredible operation, actually, by the U.S. Army as well. And he said it was an absolute mess. You had to navigate around it. You don't know where the Taliban were, whether they had any... RPGs waiting to shoot down that plane. And ironically, now women are so restricted, but the last takeoff from Kabul International Airport was by Veronica, the female pilot. So they managed to take off, and I met them a week after, because they went to Ukraine. But they were telling me the 10 minutes of climbing out of Kabul, they said they didn't know what was going to happen. Are they going to get shot down? Are they going to crash into another airplane? Because the traffic there was insane with all the Americans coming in there, and the airspace wasn't controlled. Obviously, they had guns on board as well. Alcohol, everything, and people were smoking on the plane, I was told, and they managed. So they flew to Georgia. They landed in Tbilisi because they had a deal that there were some locals in Tbilisi, and they said they'd take them out of Afghanistan and they dropped them there, but they didn't find them. They didn't know where they were. But so the flight plan was to go to Georgia, Tbilisi. As soon as the plane touched down, the CAM airplane, the 737, it was surrounded by the military, police, and whatever, and they were not allowed to disembark. They didn't want to deal with it. Georgia says, we don't want to have anything to do with this. You get some, we're going to fill up the plane and you continue your journey.
Wow.
And that's what happened. And then they went to Kiev, and they landed in Ukraine. And this is where the story then came to an end for now. So on that flight, there was Veronica, Moadese, the two pilots, the cabin, the flight deck crew from the all-female flight, and Shagufa, who was a cabin crew on the flight. Moadese, she had a visa for Bulgaria because that's where the training for the pilots took place. So once a month, they would go there for simulator trainings. So she continued on to Bulgaria and started a new life there. So she claimed asylum there, and then after a year, she started working for an airline in Bulgaria, flying cargo planes for DHL, and it all kind of worked out for her. She was very welcomed in the country because everybody knew who she was because of the videos and all the stories that were related to it. So, which gave her a great advantage. She was kind of a public figure in that sense. She's still doing a lot of work for the media or UN and these kind of things. She became, I think, a UNESCO ambassador as well. Veronica and Shagufa, they stayed in Ukraine, and then a year later, the war started.
Not even a year later.
I still visited them in Kiev after this because I was really concerned about the girls and was trying, what can I do? How can I help you? So I flew to Ukraine. I met Veronica. I met Shagufa, who escaped with her sister. And they stayed in Ukraine. And after this, I went to Bulgaria to see Moadese and try to see if I can help her, try to find her a new job in the aviation industry. And then I think February 2022, the war started in Ukraine, the Russian invasion, and they had to run away again.
Right.
Imagine.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Exactly. Now imagine you have to run away again. First from Taliban, and then from the Russian army. So Shagufa now is in Germany. Another fun story, there was a girl called Nargis. She remained in Afghanistan for a little bit, and through my subscribers, because I made a public post on my Instagram, and I said, hey, this girl is still in there. We have to get her out. We have to help her somehow. And we managed to get her out eventually, and she flew to Brazil. She lives in Brazil now with one of my patrons, quite interesting, who helped her, who was really invested to get her out. And she started a new life. She's fluent in Portuguese now. She has a new job, and she's doing well. And the purser on that all-female flight lives in America now. There's one girl. Her name is Freshta. We've never heard from her again. We don't know exactly where she is. Apparently, she got married just before the Taliban took over, so probably still in Afghanistan. Whether she is alive or how she's doing, we don't know. But thanks to that story that we did the Afghanistan all-female flight, for which I then got an Aviation Achievement Award as well, or like the entire crew. We were able to kind of save them, and I think that's also like pretty good to know. That's
great background and sort of follow-up information for people to know. I don't know how too many journalists that would sort of go that far out of their way to, help people that found themselves in a situation at some point after their coverage and things like that. So obviously, I think that speaks a lot to your character. But enough kissing your ass.
Thank you.
So I think you've also you've also been involved in some other interesting projects as well. I think in 2020 you were on the delivery of Uganda Airlines' first Airbus A330-800. Right?
Yeah, Airbus A330-800. I don't know. Yeah. Like some people say 747, others say 747. That's up to you. But whatever you're into.
Okay.
But generally Airbus A330.
Okay, Airbus A330-800.
You can say 300 or 330. Like, it's up to you. Whatever floats your boat.
So, tell me about it.
Yeah. It was during the pandemic, and Uganda, so that's the cool thing with Africa. There is like a renaissance of like old flag carriers.
Yeah.
So they're all coming back now. So most of the Africa had actually a very vibrant aviation scene before what? Actually, before the let's say the end of the Soviet Union. Let's say when the wall came down, the world changed a little bit. So back in the days, in the 80s, 90s, they most had flag carriers, most of them flying everywhere in the world. You would have the weirdest and coolest airlines, and they were really successful. Now they're very limited to domestic travel or intercontinental flights. But yeah, Uganda ordered some new planes. It was during the pandemic, and which was a terrible time for aviation. Very, very bad time. Everything was grounded. All the old planes were retired and stuff. Awful. And there was this event that Uganda would get the new planes. I went to Toulouse, that's where Airbus is located, in south of France. Went on the delivery flight and met the president, Museveni, who I didn't know was in office since 1986. And I was born 1986. And it was election year there as well. And some people say it's just election for, like North Korea. No, you have an election, but you have no choice. It is very rigged, they say. So it was election year, and this plane apparently was a promise as well. And we had to wait there forever for him to arrive. And then all of a sudden, this Russian chopper appeared out of nowhere, and then there was Museveni, and was taking ownership of the plane, was holding his speech and say how I dare you that corruption infiltrates the airline. 6 months later, ironically, everyone was fired because of corruption. But yeah, the airline is doing okay. But yeah, I love delivery flights. Delivery flights are a lot of fun.
And were you invited specifically on that?
Yeah, I invited myself.
So how do you go about doing something like that? You heard that this flight was going to take place, and
sometimes you get invited.
Yeah.
I was not invited on that one, but sometimes you have to be proactive, right? So I reached out to them and I asked, hey, I would like to be part of this because I've covered a lot of delivery flights before, and how about I can be part of this? And then they said, yes, how much do you charge for it? And I was like, I don't charge. In Africa, it's always like money. Everything has a price. And I was like, no, I do it for free. I just want to feature the story. I don't care about money. And they say, okay, cool, come with us. And there's another funny story when Air Greenland got the delivery 2 years ago. I sent an email to Katja, which was the marketing manager. She never replied. So I thought I'd make a video how I traveled to Greenland and ask her why she didn't reply to my emails and whether I'm invited or I can be part of the Air Green delivery flight. Went to Greenland, showed up there. She didn't know I was coming. And then because I came all the way from Sri Lanka back then, she said, yeah, you can come on the delivery flight. And now 3 days ago, I was on the first flight from Denmark to Nuuk. So I'm having a great relationship now with Air Greenland whenever something new happens.
And so now that you're listening,
go
you can
watch my video.
Yeah, you can go check that out.
For the YPT audience, go and check out my Air Greenland video.
And what's coming up? Like, what are you doing right after this in terms of content? Are you able to say? Do you not?
In terms of content,
can you tease what you might be doing, or?
I have nothing extraordinary planned. I still haven't posted my Cuba stuff where I flew in Cubana on the Tupolev. Quite interestingly, and I was standing in the flight deck for landing, which is also pretty interesting story. So the Cubana videos come. I went to Israel recently as well because I wanted to cover their aviation scene at the moment. With all the restrictions, and I haven't planned anything big for next year, but I really hope, and maybe you know better than I do, that Air Choreo is back in business next year.
It's one of those things where, we like to say it's North Korea, so it could be tomorrow, it could be never. We certainly hope never, and we don't think never, but again, it's the Hermit Kingdom. Kim Jong-un's?
Yeah, do you have his number?
No, but I do know some people who do.
Know him. Have you seen him?
I've never seen him.
Have you touched him?
I haven't touched him, and he hasn't touched me. But we did have one group that was at the Mass Games in 2018, and they were, as they were going in, the Koreans were confiscating everyone's phones and cameras, and the PACs were really pissed off. But they came in only to find out that reason for that was because Kim Jong-un was going to be at the Mass Games that night. So they didn't get to take photos, but they got to see the big man in person.
Has Gareth ever met him?
No, I think that's the closest any of our group have come to him. And then the reason I even ended up going was because I was friends with Dr. Joe Terwilliger, who's actually been on this show, and he was Dennis Rodman's translator on Dennis Rodman's trips to North Korea. And I had met Joe in New York, and I had been this is when I was still in my obsession with North Korea, and we got to talking, and I was like, well, I'd love to go. He's like, you can. And I'm like, really? I can. And I started looking into it, and that's how I ended up doing it. But it was through him. So, and we've all got, everyone that's sort of involved in the sort of North Korea scene is always like 1 degree of separation from Kim Jong-un. You always know someone who's met him or dealt with him. But
it'd be nice to meet him.
Because
do you know? Have you seen that video where he landed the plane? Where they made it look like he landed the plane?
So what do you think? You don't think Kim Jong-un can pilot a plane?
No, he did, 100%. I'm sure. He just went in there, he went through the instructions and was type-rated straight away.
I think our future jobs depend on us believing that.
He did land it.
Yeah.
I saw it. I'm an aviation expert.
Okay.
Some people call me so.
Yeah.
So I saw that, 100%.
I'm prepared to go with your position on that, 100%.
Would you go on a flight piloted by the supreme leader himself?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I think so. That would be quite the story, and
you saw that video, right, as well? No?
I did see that video.
He looked very confident landing.
He was a smiling, happy guy. He was handing out aviator sunglasses to the other pilots. It was...
He's an F-geek, 100%.
Yeah. Did you see when, Air China that let him borrow their plane for the Singapore? For the Singapore summit. Which
was surprising, though, because there's a lot of F-geeks in many places around the world. And then, for example, when in Munich is that they have that conference every year when all the leaders fly in, and you see the Air Force One and all those state planes, and people love spotting them when they come in landing. So I think it would have been a nice treat for the Singaporeans. I have a lot of followers from Singapore. They would have loved to see that Aviation 62 or whatever he picks that day land in Singapore. But yeah, unfortunately, the Chinese, for whatever reason, said, hey, take our big 747, fly there.
Well, it was kind of an amazing moment. It was like, you had the whole world and everybody from all sides of the political spectrum kind of encouraging that. So it's like everybody was kind of like...
a marketing move?
It was a marketing move, but also everyone was like doing their part, The Singapore was hosting it, encouraging the talks. Air China's like, take a plane, I thought it was...
It could also be restrictions because some countries, they don't allow you to fly in those old Russian planes because of the noise restrictions.
Well, the noise restrictions, and then also they don't have the parts.
It sounds very European, though.
Well, I know that Air Korea really can't land at, most airports internationally because they don't have the parts to service the planes. Right?
Yeah, I think the Tupolev 204 that they have, I think it can fly, but then I think there's sanctions and stuff. They might be able to do the return journey because they wouldn't get jet fuel. Interesting, when you fly to Iran or Iran Air still operates into Europe, but they have to bring enough jet fuel for the return journey because they're not allowed to get some fuel because of the sanctions, which also applies to Lufthansa. So when Lufthansa flies from Frankfurt to Tehran, they have to bring enough fuel to make the journey back, which means that they get really hot breaks when they land because they're so heavy still in Tehran. It's like aviation is full of interesting stories with sanctions and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now you know why I love it so much.
I wanted just to get these out of the way in like a rapid fire session. Okay.
Yeah, so 1 hour rapid fire.
Yeah, let's do like a rapid fire question on like kind of the basics, like what's your favorite airline for this? Or what's your favorite airline for that? All right, let's do it.
Okay.
So, favorite airline for food?
Turkish Airlines.
Okay. Most comfortable airline for economy class. So if you had to take a long flight in economy class, but it could be any airline, what would it be?
I would say Emirates.
Best business and first class? Also Emirates?
Business class, I'd say Singapore Airlines. First class, it's also a tough one, but I'd say the new first class of Emirates, which I recently flew. Incredible.
Watch that one?
It's not published yet, but I will publish it soon. Probably by the time you're slow with the editing, anyways, right?
I am a little slow with that.
Yeah. So by 2026, when this comes out, I guess
not that slow. But so there's been an update to the first class.
You have your own room.
Yeah,
like it's literally a room. You have most of enclosed because most of the first class cabins, they have open space so the cabin crew can see what you do there if you're not being naughty, So that might be the reason. But like this one has a door. Most all the first class cabins have a door, but like it's enclosed as well. Like it's amazing.
But it's like a full on room that you can like stand up and walk around in, and
you can do stuff, and they probably won't notice. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. How about like a mid-tier class, like a Delta Comfort Plus, or airlines with like a premium economy? What are your comments on that?
I love when you talk about Delta and stuff like that, because everyone hates American Airlines. Premium economy class, I'd say, I think it was EVA Air from Taiwan.
That's EVA Air in Taiwan.
EVA Air or EVA. People don't know really how to, there's two opinions how to pronounce it, but EVA Air was pretty good. Air New Zealand has a pretty good premium economy class, but sorry that I laughed about American carriers.
Well, no, actually, so that segues into, we can pause the rapid fire, and that segues into the question. I know that a lot of your viewers are American, so why can't you fly any American domestic carriers?
Because I've been to too many axis of evil countries. Do you still use that term? American?
No, it was a Bush era term.
Era.
And the fun fact about that was that he was taking aim at Iran and Iraq, but they threw in North Korea because they didn't want, for optics, because they didn't want to appear anti-Muslim or like they were specifically attacking countries in the Middle East, so they put in North Korea with the axis of evil.
Korea.
Yeah.
Like, weren't the Germans and the Italians and Japanese was the axis of evil, right? Didn't Eisenhower say that?
Did Eisenhower start with the axis of evil?
No, I thought like they were.
But they were the axis.
The axis, but not the axis of evil. Right?
The axis of evil was a Bush era term, I think, used during a Bush speech when post 9/11, when they were taking aim at when they were gearing up for the Iraq War, was basically what it was, and so he named the axis of evil.
I don't know what you taught in high school in America, but yeah, we grew up learning that we were the bad guys.
That you were the axis of evil.
We were the axis of evil. Yeah, the baddies.
The original, the OG axis of evil.
The original, the original axis of evil. Makes sense, no? Like when you position like Germany, then Italy, and then Japan.
Yeah, well that's it.
And then there are some allies that we all forget about, like Bulgaria, Romania, Sweden. They were on our side as well. Yeah. Finland, yeah.
They actually still. Oh, I mean,
they had a swastika as well.
Well, they still have the swastika in their Air Force flag, don't they?
The German Air Force?
No, not the German Air Force. No, the Finnish Air Force.
I was like, I wouldn't know that. I don't think so. No.
Maybe they did. They had it until fairly recently.
I doubt. I would know that. You can Google this, but I think because there's a lot of people probably listening to the podcast, and they'd be like, Finnish, you have a lot of Finnish customers. They're adventurous. Finnish people are adventurous. And they might feel offended right now. They say, no, we don't fly the flag.
They dropped it in 2020. The Finnish Air Force has used the swastika as its emblem since 1918. When the Swedish Count Erik von Rosen gave the country its first aircraft. However, in 2017, the Air Force began quietly removing the swastika from some of its planes and replacing it with eagles.
Are you saying they still had a swastika until 2017?
Yeah.
Wow. That is interesting.
We got a picture of it right here.
Oh, there is. Oh my goodness. I am surprised.
There we go.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I surprised you with one fun fact today.
Yeah. Interesting facts. You see, like now, I'm sure people Google it themselves, that they were flying head swastikas on their airplanes. I mean, everyone looks differently at the swastika, but in India, they feel like, oh, cool. They're blessed in Finland because it's a good sign there. Yeah, but it's a bit off topic right now.
And
but that's what podcasts are all about now. Like sometimes those off-topic conversations.
Yeah, we're weaving. We come in and out. We come back. So
I totally forgot what the original question was.
Speaking of writing history, okay, we're back to rapid fire. Weirdest airline.
Weirdest airline? Aerodilly.
Yeah, you recently had a experience with them, right?
What they done was weird. Yeah.
They published your passport, bio data.
Yeah. I had to get a new passport after this. Interesting, huh?
So what sparked that? You were trying to check in for a flight and they wouldn't.
They were all weird about it. Like I don't know. Long story short, because I think I was very critical. Like I got food poisoned on that flight, and they said I wasn't, and I think they wanted to have revenge somehow. And one associate of the airline just thought it was a good idea to post my passport publicly on Facebook somewhere in a group.
Do we know if that employee was reprimanded or fired or?
I don't think so because obviously I did a video about it, how they posted my passport, because people love to hear these behind the stories. They never apologized or anything like that. I think they got rid of the station manager, but not of the country manager for Indonesia, for Aerodilly. Weird stuff.
But even what's the point of publishing? Somebody can get your passport info, and of course you don't want that necessarily out there. But it's not an entire doxing. Because it's not like you posted your home address or, you know what I mean? It's like what What's like the actionable thing from having your passport
I think
information?
he just wanted to piss me off.
Yeah,
that's it.
just like the dick move.
Exactly.
All right, and most dangerous airline, like a flight that you've had where you're like, I might not get off this flight alive or in one piece.
I don't know. I was recently flying Mauritania Airlines, and it was full of cockroaches. And they go through they can. So if you see a mouse on a plane or something, it can be dangerous because they bite through the cables and stuff, and so do cockroaches. And that plane was so old and so broken, and it was just falling apart. So, especially when you fly an old bird like this and then turbulences hit, you think, you feel a bit much more uncomfortable. Mauritania Airline was airpiece was a bit weird as well.
Yeah, that's a crazy video. I mean, like the fights breaking out, the person passing out.
That was hilarious, yeah. And after the video, some pilots reached out to me from Airpeace, and they said, they have like tail strikes and didn't report it and stuff like that, which can have severe consequences, yeah. But I'm generally not really scared, but there are statistically, some airlines are more dangerous than others, but, that's hard to say. But, go to my channel and watch the weird ones. And
okay, best crew.
Best crew, any Asian airlines. Asia is superior when it comes to service. Philippine Airlines, great. Always fun. I love flying them.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So have you flown Philippines Airlines and Cebu Pacific?
Yeah, I came here on Cebu.
Okay.
They have a Airbus A330-900. All economy, 460 seats in economy. It's a nightmare. But it was fun.
You flew from Dubai?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've taken that flight before.
It's fun, no?
Oh, it's a nice, fun flight. It's got this Filipino-sized seating, which is really great for an American-sized person. So
they don't have those headrests. Those headrests?
Yeah, they don't have that either.
They don't have it, and
you can win something in a raffle. You can,
Yeah.
So, because you never know what's going to happen.
That was so much fun. Yeah, they had the raffle there as well. They asked which Filipino singer sang a Christmas song. I don't know what it was, but people were very happy to win vouchers.
Like every Filipino singer singing a Christmas song.
Yeah,
they start the Christmas music here, and on September 1st is when they start playing it, in malls and public spaces.
They love singing, yeah. Generally,
most of the world's happiest people.
I went to a dentist here once, and there was a karaoke machine in the waiting room.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love this.
I might have to get the name of that place from you before this is over.
Cebu Dentist or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, and all right, most frequently delayed. An airline that when you book it, you're like, I know this is going to be
the longest delay I ever had was an Airpeace as well. It was 7 hours, but
so more so than Wizz Air, or
I don't have much loyalty, so in order to cover as many airlines as possible on my channel, I try to fly different airlines all the time, but that is more a question that you must ask frequent flyers that have a loyalty to some airline. But I'm usually pretty lucky with delays, but I plan accordingly because sometimes that doesn't bother me that much, delays. I don't fly to other cities or places for meetings or anything like this. I just
you get delayed. You can,
it's part of my video.
Make that part of the experience.
Yeah. People love it.
And okay, most corrupt airline.
Oh God. Oh dear. I would say Africa. But people are gonna give me shit in the comments. They're like, "Oh, why are you saying this?" But African Airlines are pretty corrupt.
Have you ever had to pay bribes to get your baggage on or get on a flight?
Did I have to pay bribes? Not really, but the thing is, corrupt. I think I hear a lot of stories about corrupt airlines, but I've never been involved.
Well, it's also level of corruption, I think, too. Perhaps, it was too broad of a question, because it's you have your, check-in counter, attendant who, is going to take, $50 for, getting your baggage that's slightly overweight on, or you have, your Qatar Airways who are going to
They did try to bribe me.
Who were going to try to bribe you?
Yeah, that was different. But now when I landed in Nigeria, the immigration officer asked me, do you have something more my coffee? And I was like, what? So back in the days, do you have soda? And now it's like, do you have something for my coffee? It means, do you have a bribe for me? So they wouldn't say, do you have some money for me? And I declined. But then when I posted the video and I spoke about this, Africans say, well, you have a tipping culture in America. Why can you not tip an immigration officer? That's how they look at it. They don't see it as a bribe or corruption. They think they deserve a little tip.
That's interesting, and I suppose it is a matter of perspective like that, although we don't normally tip TSA officials or immigration officers.
That's a felony almost, isn't it?
I think it would be a felony. So they would say, is this a bribe, sir?
Cultures are different, and if they want to deal with things that way, and so be it, But
sometimes it's the easiest path. Okay, and so you're not. So that you mentioned that you're not loyal to any specific airline. So you're not a member of any frequent flyer programs. You don't have status on any frequent flyer programs.
Does Mile High Club count?
We're getting there.
All right,
we're working up to that.
That's a teaser for what's there to come. To answer.
It's literally like the next question.
Yeah. No, I'm not. The only status I've ever had was silver status with British Airways, and that was gifted to me by one of my subscribers.
And British Airways is still really well regarded, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah, they're part of the One World Alliance, yep. So every time you fly with a One World member, you will get lounge access and a higher allowance for luggage, I think it was. But those statuses, they don't really mean much to me. Yeah, so I'm not the classical reviewer kind of. There's a lot of points guys, and the points guy in the US, for example, they love their credit cards and status. You're American. Do you have status? You probably have a
SkyTeam
Hertz car rental platinum status.
No, not the Hertz, but Delta Platinum.
How did you get that? Because you signed up probably for 25 credit cards.
It started when I was actually working for the reality TV show Teen Mom when I lived in New York.
Teen Mom?
Yeah, Teen Mom.
Is that what I think it is?
Yeah, it's exactly what
porn?
You think. No.
Oh, right.
The whole thing is predicated on somebody having sex. I mean, that's what, that's how they ended up on Teen Mom. I just wasn't involved in that aspect of it. But they started as 16 and pregnant. I can't believe I'm talking about this. Started as 16 and pregnant, and then the most popular girls from 16 and pregnant went on to the show Teen Mom, and then there was Teen Mom 2, Teen Mom 3, Teen Mom OG. It was a whole franchise, and it still exists to some degree, but I haven't worked.
Never heard of
some
it.
Time.
But shows about a good boy.
It's MTV.
I'm as innocent as I look like.
But no, that's actually I'm relieved that you never heard of it. But we used to fly only Delta, exclusively Delta, and you would get all the points, and that's how I got, doing the points game. And I'd always been chasing the status, and this now is the first year I think I'm going to let it go. You know
what's interesting? That Americans think Delta is a great airline until they travel on an Asian airline. Did you feel the same?
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of prepared to let it go. It's like, why am I spending all this money being loyal to Delta and SkyTeam, members of the SkyTeam Alliance, blah, blah, when I've flown much better flights.
If you could fly from Manila to LA, you could pick between Philippine Airlines or a United. Who would you fly with?
Probably Philippine Airlines, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would too.
Yes.
Everyone in their right mind would.
Usually, though, I do...
what do you like about America? I mean, we can't bash American carriers, so you have to say something nice about, what do you like about U.S. airlines?
I mean, Delta I just found to be the most reliable in turn, out of, between, United, American Airlines, Delta, at least for me, was always the most reliable. And so that was that. But I mean... And their frequent flyer program used to be pretty accessible, and it was like pretty easy to get status and maintain status. Now, obviously, they overhauled. Recent times they've overhauled the whole point system, and now it's more difficult. And you have to get the Delta American Express and tie in your spend and everything like that. And it's
what do you think of American airports and infrastructure after like living in Asia for so long?
Depends on the airport. I mean, there was a period of time. I mean, like living in New York, JFK was always great, but LaGuardia was like, people say what you want about Trump, but he was right when he said LaGuardia was like a third world country until we had the new LaGuardia, which is now very nice.
So is JFK. No, I mean, okay, let's say I'm Kim Jong-un.
I would rather be at JFK than
but
Hanoi here in Manila, but
yeah, but let's say I'm Kim.
But does it compare to Singapore or Hong Kong? Or no.
Okay, like as I said, like I'm Kim Jong-un. I come to America because I'm best friends with Trump. I want to open up. And I want to build a new airport. Which one would you showcase to me? Which American airport where you say this is the best airport in America? It looks new, it's fresh, it's nice. What would you think of first? JFK? No. LAX?
Absolutely not LAX. I mean, in terms of just...
I can't think of a single American airport.
I almost want to say Atlanta, just in terms of like accessibility, but no, none of them are like particularly nice.
Yeah.
Is this just you because you're bitter because you had the visa issue, or what's the?
Well, no, I love America. Long live Donald Trump.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God.
You don't need you don't need to necessarily declare allegiance to a particular party or political leader
to get a visa in the US. I don't know. I'm not so convinced about this. I'm not talking about any conspiracies here, but I think that America is very paranoid about who they let in. And all I do is I have to call the State Department today and I can say, hey, Justin is a spy, or he just converted to Islam, something like that, and then they put you on a naughty list, and that's how I was told. Like, so I have a lot of viewers from America. We were talking about. I'm not banned from the United States, but they just won't give me a visa.
But have you gone through like the formal visa process of like you go and do the interview? And so what happened with that? Did you explain? Well, I went there. I'm a YouTuber. I do these reviews. That's why I've traveled to these countries.
Exactly. I mean, I knew. So I was in Afghanistan, and then I flew from Afghanistan. Right, 2 days later, I flew to New York, and in the video, I was like, and Afghanistan is not on that list, where when you have an ISTA, that.
Yeah, Afghanistan's not on the list.
Afghanistan was at least not on the list in 2019. So in the video, I was like, they check your passport and stuff when you check in, and they do all those security things on you. And in the video, I said, I hope they don't see my Afghanistan visa in my passport.
And I think it's still, it's still maybe they'll ask you questions about it if they see it in the passport, but it's not on the official list. The official list is Iraq, North Korea, Syria, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the list. So Afghanistan was not on the list, so I didn't have to do anything. But in the video, I keep it real in my videos, right? And so I was like, I was just in Afghanistan 3 days ago. So if they see my visa, they might ask me a lot of questions and might jeopardize made a part of the video. Nobody saw the visa. Went on a flight. Actually, when I arrived in New York, like one of the officers saw my Afghanistan visa. And he was like, what did you do there? I was, I'm a journalist. I was there to cover a story, like aviation story. And then he said to his colleague, this is a 5678, whatever code they have.
We got a 5678 here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in that voice, exactly. And gave it to the guy, and he didn't ask me any question about it. I think he didn't even get it. Like, he said, what are you doing here? I'm saying I'm here for 24 hours because I was on a flight of Cap Portugal, who just started flying from Porto to New York, and I've left the United States the next day. 2 weeks later, I had an email saying your ISTA has been cancelled. So there's people that watch my videos and they don't like me very much. So sometimes I think like, how can Josh said something about my favorite airline or whatever, something not nice. How can I make Josh's life difficult? So I was told that somebody called the State Department and said I'm a threat to the United States because I travel to these kind of countries or whatever, which I'm not.
You're not a threat to the United States? To the American government?
Not at all. Like, interesting, no? So I think I'm not. Maybe I'm not dangerous.
You're a happy, friendly guy.
I'm a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. And I mean, my phones are tapped anyways, right? I'm 100% sure because when I was on that cruise, there was always, internet on those cruises are always really expensive. And I switched everything off and I could see there was always like a secret upload. Yeah, on my phones, eating through my data, which I paid so much for. And then there was a guy on the cruise, and he looked like the typical CIA guy, right? The haircut, the collared shirt, and very, very CIA.
So are you suggesting you're being followed by the CIA?
I hope so. So they should know that.
You've been, yeah. So I always tell people. I've been trying to get on the list for some time.
100%. I'm on a watch list. That's for sure. But I mean, they probably would see our conversations as well. No.
Yeah.
Our group chats.
I mean,
they think I'm fucked up, but like I'm not.
You know those memes about when the group chat leaks?
Yeah, 100%. Like so, and then I applied for a visa in Colombo. I went there, open book. I have an open book policy. They can go through my phone, whatever there is. They can go through. I told them I go there to feature airlines that you can't fly really, and I was very open. I told them exactly how it was. And I said, like, the American people want me to come because they watch my channel. And they always say, like, hey, why? And not all of them, but the Afgeeks of America. And they said, come to America, feature American airlines, like, do some stories on our airlines. And so I did that interview with a guy who looked like the bad guy from Star Wars, the new ones, the one with the black hair, with the...
Oh, Kylo Ren?
Yeah, exactly like him. So I hope somebody from the State Department listens to that podcast, and then they go to Colombo and talk to him why he was rejecting me. So, anyways, I told him everything. I said I was an open book, and he said, "Yeah, he gave me a green form." I don't know whether you've ever seen it, like, so where they have, like...
I haven't been in this position before.
You're American citizen, right?
Yeah.
That's a runner. Like, I want to find an American wife so I can then get married and then get the U.S. green card, and then I can come to America. That was plan B. But anyways, so he gave me that green form and said we have some follow-up questions and we have to, I don't know, do some more research. And we will get back to you in 2 weeks. I believed them that they would, and 2 weeks later I followed up and I said, hey, I still haven't heard back from you guys. And they said, no, the second you walked out, your application was rejected. And I was like, the guy, the villain guy from Star Wars lied to me. He said that's not, he said they will be in touch, and they just rejected it. Like, I think he saw something on the screen which says, oh no, he's a bad boy or whatever. I don't know what the story is, so it makes no sense to me. So at this time, the ambassador, Julie Chung, I think, was the ambassador. South Korean, no? Like, there's always a Korea. She was born in South Korea, I think, and became an American citizen. And her first ambassador post was in Sri Lanka, and she was very outspoken always. Like when there were protests at this time in Sri Lanka, say we have to protect journalists, freedom of speech. So I went on Twitter back then. It was still called Twitter. X now, and I made a post and tagged her, and I said, hey, Julie, always so outspoken, why would you ban a journalist from entering the United States? So what is this? Because all I do was just like following my journalistic activities featuring those airlines, which requires me to go to these kind of places. I mean, there's war zone journalists who do the same and all that stuff, and I made that public tweet, and an hour later I got an email. Said, or your case has been reinstated, but we need 15 years of travel history. So little Josh was sitting there. Imagine you travel for a living. 15 years of exact dates.
I mean, I do travel for a living, but...
Yeah, like so many trips I took. So I had to submit that. It took me a whole day to put that list together. and I was hoping that I would get my visa. And it's been 2 years now, and it's still on pending.
It's still on pending.
Yeah, and I asked them what's happening there. Why? So I don't know. So hello, State Department, if someone is listening.
Yeah, if you're listening.
CIA, please get into it and check and audit it. Invite me. Put me on a lie detector. Go through all my phone. Go through everything I have. There's nothing I have to hide, And then, obviously, there's a lot of good Americans as well. Many. All of them. Great people, right?
The best people.
Fantastic nation.
Yeah.
I always say that. I don't know why. Even in my private chats that they've been probably reading as well. I've never said anything bad about America. I love a strong America. We need a strong America. That's my point of view.
Well, okay. So let's say, so you get because since you love Americans so much, you get your American wife.
And I've been to America 6 or 7 times. I've always followed the law.
Yeah.
I've been a good boy.
Right. So, so let's say you get the American wife. Let's say the visa doesn't come. You get the American wife. You get your green card. And what you asked me what domestic carriers I would fly. So what if you had to fly U.S. domestic? Who would you fly?
All of them.
Well, of course, because you're gonna do your. But let's say you had to have. I mean, you say you're living in the U.S. or whatever. You have to have a go-to. I mean, or you had to choose one over the others. Which
I don't know. I haven't tried many of them. I only flew in Delta, I think. But that's not the point. The point is, let me come to America because that's what America stands for, no? Freedom of speech.
Well, freedom of speech for American citizens.
Amendment.
I don't know that it applies to,
but that's not,
German citizens or EU citizens.
Nobody has ever banned me. No country ever. Why would?
No, we make it hard. We make it unnecessarily hard unless you're an American citizen.
So I feel like it's unjustified, and I feel like I'm not treated right. Can I say that?
Yeah, I think you can say that. You're free to express your opinion.
Is that American right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't get it. So that is it is, I don't know really what it is and what the conspiracy is behind this. But maybe it's Qatar who banned me and they say, hey, no, let's put him on a no-fly list or something. I'm not on a no-fly list because that means you cannot fly any airline. But I'm a troublemaker sometimes, but a good one.
Yeah,
ultimately. I'm like the Robin Hood of aviation.
I mean, ultimately you're helping consumers. I mean,
I'm on the consumer side, so I piss off a lot of people as well, and it costs them maybe a lot of money. So, and then they were like, let him go to, I don't know what it is, but we talked about it. So the word is out there. So I hope that it catches someone's attention and it ends up on someone's desk. That's all I can do. Or I can apply in Germany. I was told to apply in Germany again, in Berlin, because I obviously had people reaching out to me who were very powerful. That's cool. And they said, hey, Josh, I have a guy sitting at this department and he said this and this. So just go to apply in your home country, in Germany, and see what the result is going to be. I do that next year. So a little teaser, perhaps next year. Where are the cameras? Oh, there are no cameras here. So maybe there will be a US aviation tour next year and you can join me. But then you don't want to be seen maybe with me because I'm the bad guy. Then they ban you maybe too.
No, you got to be in order to be banned as a U.S. citizen. You got to be pretty, or they let you. You got to be pretty bad, or they let you in and then they arrest you. At least,
There's always
in other words, they will keep you there rather than keep you out.
Which is good. No, I'm sure I believe in a happy ending, and I believe not in the way that you think I do.
No comment.
No comment. But I have faith in my favorite country in the world.
I do as well.
I love New York, by the way. One of my favorite places. That's why my YouTube career kind of started.
It did. And
because Casey Neistat.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Because
it
all comes full circle. Yeah. Okay, so talking about happy endings, are you in the Mile High Club?
Am I in the Mile High Club? What's the Mile High Club?
I believe, and I've been told, it's when you have sex
intercourse.
You have intercourse on the aircraft while it's in the air.
with a cabin crew or anyone?
I think it could be anyone. I don't think it's limited to, it's a selective like passengers or cabin crew, but maybe...
Probably you get more points if it's a cabin crew.
Yeah, if there was a game element, yes.
Because it's a club, right? You get a member.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
pass a member if you probably with crew. And what's the highest?
Pilot?
Pilot,
yeah.
probably, yeah. No, I'm not a member of the Mile High Club.
No,
I'm not.
Not at all. Not even the junior member, not even
a junior member is...
I don't know, maybe...
You do it yourself?
Maybe you did it yourself. Maybe somebody touched you, you know, like... You know, the lights were off.
The lights... I know it's a very disappointing answer, but like I think I'm too innocent to do these things. But never say never. But like I'd rather have a US visa than being a part of
So the State Department, if you're listening, Josh isn't even a member of the Mile High Club. So grant him his visa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go.
Great segue.
All right. So you've received several awards in the aviation industry, such as Best Airline Channel in 2018, the Aviation Achievement Award in 2021, and Airline Critic of the Year this year. So what does that recognition, which one means the most to you and why?
I mean, awards are obviously, it's nice when people recognize your work. I think the Aviation Achievement Award in 2021, that was very special because it was for the Afghanistan all-female flight. I'm also nominated as Best Airline Channel at the German Travel Award this year as well.
Okay.
Hilarious, no? No, it's been a pretty good year. I got that, was Airline Critic of the Year. I was given that award at the International Travel Awards this year. It's good, you know. It's fun, but like, I mean, they look nice in your cupboard, and you look at it. But by the end of the day, it's like, yeah, what you say, you know, like it's not. Yeah, it's a difficult. I'm a very humble person by nature, so of course I find it nice and it's charming, but I'm more excited flying air cargo in economy class than getting an award. Yeah, but it's nice to get recognition. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to get recognition, and then it's kind of like, you know you're sort of doing the right thing, right? And someone's paying attention, so that's good.
Yeah, no other aviation YouTubers have won really like any awards from what I know. So it's always me. So it means like if you have a big mouth and you're a bit of a troublemaker at times, and you try to change things and have an impact, or do an all-female flight and these kind of things, people recognize that, and I think that stands as a testament for the little bit of good work that
absolutely
that I do. Yeah.
And we're gonna come back to you being a troublemaker in a second, but you know, you mentioned the other YouTubers and sort of aviation critics. How do you stay motivated to produce, you know, quality content in a competitive space such as, you know, aviation travel and journalism?
I love to see people succeed, so I'm less worried about competition because it's always nice, and I have a great relation with my fellow content creators. But yeah, we all try to find good stories, you know, and 7 years in doing this, it's hard to find something. That's why I really hope North Korea is going to open, because that would be the pinnacle of aviation content. But it is, and there's a lot of new upcoming aviation YouTubers. Now, obviously, I'm one of the pioneers with others, like there's Dan, Nonstop Dan, or there's Sam Chui. Yeah, but there's new ones, and they're really good, you know. So, but people are very saturated as well when it comes to flight reviews and stuff like that, because everything has been covered so, like, intensively that it's getting harder and harder to find good stories.
Is there an airline that's sort of remained elusive to you? I mean, obviously, we mentioned Air Korea now about 800 times, but, you know, other than Air Korea, is there, like, you know, another airline that for some reason you just haven't been able to do a video with? Or
like I did Cubana recently, because they're still flying some nice old Soviet birds, but I only was on that Tupolev. but they also have an Aviation 96. It's the only airline in the world operating that, apart from Putin. So that's still a dream of mine, to fly the Aviation 96, and then obviously Air Koryo.
And what separates the Ilyushin 96 from the
62?
The 62 or the
69?
The 69?
Have you been in the Aviation 69?
You know, I haven't, because I actually, after we talked about it, I did some research, and I was not on an Ilyushin. I was on the Antonov AN-148.
There you go, which is a very rare bird.
That's so cool.
So that makes you quite of a pioneer.
A young pioneer.
A young pioneer.
Yeah, an aging pioneer.
Exactly. Well, the 96 is a wide body. Wide bodies are usually much more interesting. A quad engine, but was never a commercial success because Russians, they aren't as advanced in their technology. So those birds are heavy, they are thirsty, and they are not very economical. Like for an airline, it's all about money and flying a Russian bird. But now with the sanctions in Russia, they might have a comeback. Yeah, but it's still, like, with the sanctions, really hard. Even though those Russian planes, they still have like 60% of their components are from the West. They have avionics, tires, engines. So we still need probably like a lot more sanctions for the Russians to like really start producing those birds again, because they'd rather not fly than flying an old bird like the Ilyushin 96. Yeah.
But Putin's using the Ilyushin 96 as
government jet. Yeah, I guess like 10 of them.
His main...
Like the government fleet.
Yep.
Yeah. They still have like Tupolev's 154 as well, like the tri-engines and stuff like that. Good stuff out there. Yeah. I just gotta be friends with Vladimir Putin and then make a vlog with him. I don't know, like when I see, what's that guy, Tucker Carlson?
Tucker Carlson, he's friendly with them. Oliver Stone is also.
I don't know why they don't like do a...
Steven Seagal is a Russian citizen.
Oh God, yeah. So was Gerard Depardieu.
Depardieu, he's in that clique now.
He was, but not. He was avoiding tax, I think, in France, and then became a Russian citizen. And now I think he renounced his citizenship again because he's not very pro-war. He didn't want to be pushed in that corner, like what's the seagull guy, you know?
Yeah.
So,
so he's got some integrity, and he's...
Yeah, but it would be nice if they go and, like, maybe they should do an interview with Putin on the Ilyushin 96.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you do it if you were asked?
My grandmother's from the Ukraine, so obviously I have... but no, I think you have to listen to people. I think I'm not opposed to these kind of things. I like when you listen to the other side of the story as well. So I would definitely do a podcast with him on that.
But what if they said to you, okay, you can interview him aboard the Ilyushin 96, but you can only ask aviation-related questions. You cannot ask any political questions. You can't ask any... What if they tried to give you some preconditions to the interview? Would that...
Yeah, I would probably do that. But then at the same time,
Would you issue a disclaimer and say... I had to agree to these preconditions. That's why.
I would do a podcast afterwards talking about the behind the scenes. But no, obviously, it would be fun. I think aviation is there's a lot of politics in aviation as well. But the idea of sitting with any head of state on their government planes, I think it would be a cool business idea as well. Like, do podcasts with leaders that you talk about the aviation sector.
Talk to Putin on the Ilyushin 96. You can talk to Trump on Trump Force One.
Trump Force One. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, if you, let's say you had, now we're talking hypotheticals here, but let's say you had the opportunity to interview like a Kim Jong-un aboard his plane, or, I mean, even like, we don't have to go with sort of like pariah, states or, sort of controversial figures. Let's say they, even Biden or Kamala Harris or something aboard Air Force One or Air Force Two. I mean,
a Russian citizen will tell you that probably Biden is or Scholz, the German chancellor, who's still at the time of this podcast was recorded, he's still a chancellor of Germany. everybody has a different point of view. So some people say Biden is a dictator and he's weird. And
well, there is that, but I'm just saying if you could
point of view.
All right, if you could interview any political figure or celebrity, but like through like the lens of like aviation, who would you choose? And why? What kind of questions would you ask? You could take a second to think about it. We can always cut.
We can always cut. No, if I could, Donald Trump, 100%.
You go with Trump.
Yeah, I like when I watch.
Would you eat McDonald's aboard a?
Oh, 100%, yeah, okay. 100%. I would fly actually on his 757. He has a 757. Have you seen it? Trump
Force One.
Trump Force One. Yeah. But he's going to switch now to the 747.
He's got to go back to.
He's going to get a new one as well.
Oh, they're going to get a new one?
747-8.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is going to be the new Air Force One. They still don't know which livery. They want to keep the classic baby blue or whatever it is, which I think started with the Kennedy era. But he wants to have like the full-on American like eagle. Like he wants to have a American-themed Air Force One. Have you seen it? And then Biden went back and said, no, we're not going to do that.
Oh, so did Trump change it while he was in while he was during his first administration?
Yeah, you can Google it. He has a very different idea of what the plane should look like. So I would love to interview him on both, on his 757. I heard he's really into aviation as well.
Yeah, would you talk to him about like Space Force, like this Space Force and space travel? Does that start like? Is that still in?
Yeah. Like Elon Musk, if he joins the podcast as well. But no, I had so many questions for this guy because I think he's actually a really nice guy when I see him on podcasts and stuff like that.
Well, at least he can sit and have like a normal conversation. You know what I mean? He can just, he doesn't seem like he's. I mean, yeah, he has his bits and he has his like lines that he repeats and talking points, but it seems like he can sit and have a normal discussion.
I think that he is. He's a patriot, and he's trying to get America back on.
And you're trying to get that visa.
No,
you're really going for that visa.
Like my parents sometimes don't talk to me because I was happy when Trump got reelected because I think we need a strong America. We always have. And I think right now it's a bit more difficult, but no, I'd like to have a podcast with him. It would be pretty interesting. I think what I oppose is that cult. When people think Trump is
the MAGA cult.
That is worrying. That's fascism.
It is, and it's one of those things where I think we're caught in. And I don't want to get. Now we're talking about politics, but I don't want to get. I mean, we could talk about it, but it's like I think people get caught up in the. It's one of those things where it happens on both sides, where you just have tribal voters that get wrapped up in these cults. Whether it be the MAGA cult, and it's the same thing. Rather than just looking at somebody objectively and saying, okay, here's a policy I like. This is a policy I don't like. But, ultimately the person has more policies that I like, so I'm going to vote for them. That's
what I agree on. There's a lot of things that I don't like about Trump, right? Things he says where I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? But I think his idea of running a country now and with his new departments that he's introducing, and
the Department of Government Efficiency?
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah. I think that's something really cool. And but there's things where I disagree with him, and I think that's as politics. But
that's it. And we need to get back to a time where people have the right to disagree, and we can sit at a table and talk with people that we disagree with.
Yeah, I think the problem is that this whole after the World War II generation is pretty much gone because I grew up in Germany, right? And my grandparents were pretty much from all sides involved in World War II. And everyone was terrified of war. You always had this generation reminding us that war is the worst thing in the world.
And after the war, was your family East Germany or West Germany?
West Germany, but my mom's from the Czech Republic. So, and my grandmother, she was in there with the Red Army as well. Yeah. She always claimed she shot an SS officer, but I don't believe her.
It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
It makes for a good story.
Yeah, it makes for a good story, but I don't know whether it's true, but she could imagine her doing that. But, that's... Interesting. But no, I think...
I had a great-grandfather that was in the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, yeah, you guys got your ass kicked there, no? But
for a while, until we turned that around, but we were taken by surprise at first, for sure.
Yeah, the weather was really bad, so you couldn't rely on
They used the snow as cover.
That was very cloudy, 10 days. It was very interesting. I really love World War II stuff. And I think that was one of the great battles, but I hope he was good. He survived, and
he made it. Yeah.
He made it, yeah.
He's not with us anymore, but he passed away in 1997. But
a hero. Yeah. We're heroes, yeah, I think so. Like, different times, and now we don't know what war is like, and we think, let's be all like, bold and makes dumb statements. I think that is what we lost that generation that reminded us of how brutal it was. But now we're very, very off topic now.
Yes, well, that's the thing. We come back, and by the way, the State Department, if you're listening, Josh is still waiting on that visa, so if you could help us out there with that. So okay, let's talk about you being a troublemaker. You've faced some challenging situations, including threats and confrontations with airline staff. How do you navigate these risks while staying true to your mission as a critic? I mean, you had like the Malaysia Airlines incident, which was pretty crazy. Let's actually start with that.
Malaysia was the first time that put me on the map. I guess that was my first year of YouTube, and they are... really so I went on that flight and they told me not to, so my in-flight entertainment wasn't working and they weren't doing anything about it, and then posted on social media at the same time, and then they saw it at the HQ and they contacted the pilot during the flight, and then they asked one of the cabin crew members, can you go there and talk to him? And then he came to me and he's like, who do you message? In the middle of the flight in economy class, and everyone was like, he was really aggressive about it. And I was like, who do you message? I have no idea. I didn't message anyone. And told me to stop filming. Anyways, so when I posted that video, it was kind of the first time that I was on news and stuff, and newspapers writing about it. Resulted in Malaysia Airlines putting together an amazing program for their cabin crew, managers and stuff, how to deal with these situations. Training-wise and stuff like that. So that's what I mean, like behind the scenes, when you hear what happens, how airlines react on it, they deal then differently with these kind of cases, and the Malaysia Airlines was one of them.
And they didn't tell their staff, like if you see somebody filming and complaining, stop them from filming? Or
I think that, these kind of things are how to handle these cases, because it's a reality. There's so many influencers, so many YouTubers on the flights these days, so you got to be prepared, and it's never a good look if you tell them not to film, unless you do something stupid. You film your neighbor without consent or stuff like that, or do some dumb shit. But generally, I see it as an opportunity. So if you're a cabin crew member and you see someone is doing a vlog or flight review, hey, that's your time to shine.
Yeah, the worst thing you could do would be to try to shut it down. You would think...
It backfires always, and we need people to, when you think of those rating agencies that give awards to airlines, Skytrax or whatever, it's a massive scam. They're all working together, they announce themselves. It's misleading for the consumer. And if I go on a flight, which I paid for myself, and give people a consumer-based experience, I'm team consumer, not team airlines, and
And you praised Singapore Airlines earlier in this podcast, but I think you also received a death threat from someone saying they were an employee of Singapore Airlines.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what went wrong on a Singapore Airlines flight that you had to?
So it depends what an airline sells me. If an airline says we're one of the best in the world, or we're the best airline in the world, you have certain expectations, right? So if I tell you I'm the best YouTuber in the world, and you watch my content and you think it's average, not subscribe, right? Or imagine you would have paid for a subscription and it's not up to your standard. So So I went on a Singapore Airlines flight, because back then my girlfriend, she was cabin crew of Singapore Airlines, and I was actually she was on the same flight.
And you didn't join the Mile High Club?
No, she had to work.
She's a professional.
I was working.
And you're a professional.
You're
both professionals.
Exactly.
Just taking a flight. Two professionals taking a flight. No
absolutely,
problem.
Absolutely. I don't want to jeopardize
of course.
each other's job. But yeah, no, we didn't. But anyway, so I was just like, the video was actually quite mellow. Like, it wasn't like really outspoken or anything like this. I said just like, it wasn't worth the money I paid for. However, Singaporeans, it's a very proud nation. They think they are superior to most of other Asians, you know, and truthfully so. They've done a good job, but they're very critical of their own flag carrier themselves. But then all of a sudden they don't like the foreigners too much. Let's say it that way. So if you have a white guy saying publicly that your airline is not the best in the world, they take offensive in this, you know, and this is it is racism, xenophobic behavior. Like it's just a case. People get offended, especially with white people, because we always take the moral high ground. We try to educate everyone. We think we're better than everybody else. Just as the attitude that comes across sometimes, you know, which we're not. We're nice people. However, they got really offended by this, and it created a massive shitstorm in Singapore. It was all over the news. And then, I had like a cabin, he said at least he was a cabin crew member, and he said he's going to kill me or something like that. Never happened. I mean, he didn't kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm still alive.
Yeah, you're sitting here.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. But it was quite intense, really brutal. Like, people can be really, really, really intense. And my girlfriend at this time, she was working with Singapore Airlines, and she had to call in sick because 2 days later it was all plot twist. The YouTuber's girlfriend, the Singapore Airlines crew. So there was photos of us, because I had a photo on my public Instagram of her wearing the uniform, and that photo was all over the news in Singapore. And now, how do you feel? You feel like she's the partner of that traitor that brought shame. And,
now, so did she have to quit, or
no? She called in sick.
So she was literally just able to let the news cycle
it was tough on her because her parents, obviously, she's a human, she's someone's daughter, and her parents obviously reading comments like saying she's whatever, or calling out names. It hurts. And then imagine now you show up at work and you are the most famous cabin crew in the country. So, and Singapore Airlines, that's what I don't like. Singapore Airlines never did anything about it. They knew that she was out there, and they never tried to protect her until she reached out to them. And then we knew that you were like circulating, but we weren't sure it was you. But it was more like let her suffer kind of attitude. So me and my girlfriend, then we booked a flight to Vietnam just to escape the madness of Singapore at this time, because were you getting stopped on the street or anything like that? No, but the police told me not to go outside. And Singaporeans are peaceful people, but maybe I would have, God knows what happens. Anyways, so we went to Vietnam because I like pho, the food, the soup. Yeah. So I thought let's go there, let's eat some good street food. Yeah. And walked into my favorite pho place in Hanoi. Walked in there with my girlfriend, and then it was this big American guy who stood up. Hey, you're the Singapore Airlines guy. And I was like, oh damn, I tried to escape all this. And even in Singapore, or in Vietnam, at this little family-run pho place, I knew who I was. But I learned my lessons from this, Singapore Airlines, then I think everybody had the greatest economy class flight, because when the crew had their briefings before the flight, they said, listen to what Josh said, be more engaging, show them that we are the best in the world. And I was the baddie, but hundred thousands of people who was flying economy in this very week, they had a fantastic flight because the crew was extra motivated to show them that we're not as bad, or that we are the best airline in the world. So I was scrutinized, but that's how it works. Sometimes,
but that's it. I mean, they say don't complain, but then oftentimes when you do complain, you're making it better for the next person.
People say, you're a drama queen or something like that. No, but people don't know that there's a lot of people out there who spend a lot of money for those flights, and we have to hold those people accountable. Like those CEOs, you know what the Delta CEO earns a year?
What?
Like roughly 20 million US dollars. And it's one of the most average airlines in the world.
It's incredibly average. It's remarkably average.
If you compare it to Asian airlines, right? So, I'm not a communist. People should make money, and you can earn a lot of money if they are good at it. But you got to give back as well. So I think it's very important that they perform and that we have troublemakers like myself occasionally, but outspoken.
But that's the thing, is you very much, what you're saying is the opposite of communism. It is capitalism, and that's the thing, is that there's supposed to be a market in which everyone competes, and obviously exceptional service and product, brings you to this. What brings you to the top?
Yeah, but the traditional communist or socialist would say you should not earn that much money, or give it back or whatever. I don't care. That's how our market economy works, right? We are having a good life because of that, and it's fine, they should. I don't care, but if you sell me best airline in the world, you deliver. There's no choice, nothing else. There's so many things where I judge you on that, and that's what you sold me as an experience. And if I say it was good, but it wasn't the best in the world, so if it makes headlines, it also stands testament for how important my voice is, which is fading right now.
Yep.
I don't know. It's been a rough week, but there must be some weight to my voice, or my opinion seems to matter, and that's how I look at it sometimes.
Correct me, but I think this was probably the biggest, but the Qatar Airways incident, the bribe, or the attempted bribe, as it were. Let's talk about that. So you took Qatar Airways has a reputation, talking about selling you for being the best in the world, as being one of the best airlines in the world. And, you had noticed a decline in their economy class, and you took a flight, I think specifically to document that. I mean, did you go into it with that angle? Did you know that was kind of what was going to happen, or what?
No, I had plenty of I was very friendly with Qatar Airways.
Yeah, you'd done interviews with the CEO.
Yeah, I knew a lot of people there. I was on delivery flights and stuff like that. But so I didn't know that this was going to happen. Yeah, it was not planned either.
Did you think it was going to be business as usual? Like, okay, Josh did a video. Here's a memo, everybody. We need to do some staff training, and were you expecting?
I was going on that flight, and their CEO was very known for being outspoken, and there was a dispute with Airbus about some minor issues. They grounded their new 350s, so they had to fly their old 330s, which happened to be on those Colombo flights. And I went on a flight, and it was shit. It was rubbish. It was outdated, hard product. They ran out of meals, like in economy class, and I was not even sitting at the back where that can happen or whatever. They had no choice, which barely ever happens. I fly a lot. They never run out of choices. Airlines are smart. They usually don't anymore. But so it was very below average. Crew wasn't very nice. It wasn't really a good of a flight. And I was like, okay, I knew before I posted this is going to jeopardize my relation with Qatar Airways. But the truth is bigger than myself or the relation or the benefits that I have having this relation. So I posted a video because I believe in those values that I have, and it wasn't well received. So yeah, I posted that video. A few days later, I got a phone call actually from Qatar Airways. And they said, first thing they said, it's off record. and asked me to remove the videos in exchange of free flights or whatever else I would fancy.
Or whatever else you would fancy.
Yeah.
Like, you could have free flights, and if you want a check, if you want, like, what?
I don't know.
If you want to join the Mile High Club, if you want to...
I don't know what else there was on the table. I wasn't getting into it, because from the very second it was to me, this is non-negotiable. You know, I could have asked them, okay, so what do you have? No, it's not good enough. I post a video. It's not like this. The second day she said it's off record, I started to record it.
Do you think it also could have been blackmail? Like, in other words, if you had accepted it, they would have turned around and not given it to you, and then, issued a press release or a statement that you were willing to take a bribe, so therefore your journalism was compromised?
Never thought of this from that angle.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been, I don't know what they care about their reputation, I guess. But anyway, so my duty at this point was to showcase this, right? Because I know that they have a lot of happy bee business with influencers and stuff like that, so they want to portray themselves as it's all propaganda. I mean, they are a great airline, don't get me wrong, but they try to be buddy-buddy with people who have influence in the industry in order to get good reviews. So, but yeah, I had to post that video. It was never negotiable for me to take that down. And I said, because at this time I had a next Qatar Airways flight booked on their new 737 MAX that they had, and the 380 I wanted to do video. And I said, hey, why not perform on that one, make up for it. Show us who you really are. Yeah. They said they're going to get back to me. 3 days later, I had an email. And it says, hey, Mr. Cahill, you're no longer allowed to fly Qatar Airways. Now I was banned from the airline, and so I made a video. The video made global headlines. It was all over the news. The video itself has, over 1 million views. And I think that was a bit of a dent in their reputation, but I did what I had to do.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely think you came out looking much better than they did in that.
Yeah, the coverage was really good. People were really nice. Yeah, mostly people were on my side.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so it's important to note that obviously they tried to bribe you. You didn't take the bribe. And then I think you tried to take another flight with them, and you found that you'd been banned, right? Wasn't that
that's when I found out that I was banned. I didn't know I was banned at this time because their email went into my spam folder.
Oh, so they did send you a notification.
They sent me an email, I think 2 or 3 days before the flight, saying I'm no longer allowed to fly Qatar Airways. But I never knew. So I showed up at Abu Dhabi. Shout out to Rowan, who lives in Abu Dhabi. So I think I was with Rowan that weekend as well, getting drunk. And then I went to the airport, and funny thing is, I showed up at the airport, and the station manager of Qatar Airways was there. He wasn't aware of my ban, and he saw me in front of the check-in counter, and he said, "Oh, Josh, huge fan of your content, love your work." And I said, I wanted to check in, and then flight was cancelled already. And then I went through my emails and saw that I was banned. Rented a car, drove to Dubai and took Emirates instead. And it was a good teaser. I made a video on that Emirates flight. It was a good teaser for the actual story, which then dropped a week later. But yeah, banned, still banned.
Still banned, okay.
I guess so. I haven't tried yet. They told me I could get arrested if I transit through Qatar. Let's say I go over to the airport and somehow miraculously get a ticket. My lawyer told me you might get blasphemy. Can't talk badly about a state carrier or state business entity in Qatar. They said don't do it. And I don't want to end up in a prison.
Slander.
Slander?
Yeah.
Yeah. Slander as well. I don't know what it is. I'm not a Qatari. I'm not that aware of Qatari laws and regulations, but they're not known particular to be friendly to people that don't like them.
All right. Well, that's interesting. and most recently, I think, for going through the controversy, we've already talked about the Aero Dilly incident. So how about the Vistara situation with Sam Chui? Did you want to... You were on... That was with Vistara's final flight, right?
Oh, yeah. I know Sam for quite some time now. I was actually his mentor. I was like helping him in the beginning. I met him on a flight once from Beijing to Doha, interestingly. And he was still working a proper job, but he was doing all this YouTube stuff as a side gig. And I was going on an inaugural flight of Qatar Airways to Namibia. Saw him on the flight, talked to him. I said, hey, you're Sam and stuff, whatever. And he was saying, I want to do all these kind of things as well. I want to go on inaugural flights. And he was reasonably big at this time already, but was just doing it as a hobby. And then I helped him with his editing and these kind of things. People don't know that. Like, it's actually the first time that I speak about this stuff. And Sam comes from a very privileged background, so he's a bit difficult with people. He has so we went to Kazakhstan together. Air Astana, I think they opened a new maintenance base or something like that, invited me to go to Astana. And then I told Sam about it, and Sam was, can I join you? And I said, yeah, sure, let me talk to the airline. So got a ticket for both of us. And we went on that flight. I will never forget that. We went on that flight from Frankfurt to Astana, and there was a male cabin crew member on his aisle. And he might have done something. And Kazakhstan has really beautiful women, right? Very nice and good looking. And all of a sudden I hear Sam insult that cabin crew member, say, "You're useless. Go away." He rushed to the galley and pointed at one of the very good looking cabin crew. He said, "She's beautiful. I want her to serve me." Yeah. That was
mildly inappropriate.
Yeah, and this is when I realized, oh my God. And I heard a lot of stories about him acting like this and being like this. He has a really questionable reputation in the industry, and that was the breaking point. And in those 5 days on this trip, if he's not the center of attention, he doesn't react really nicely to it. And by the end of the tour, I still remember I got a long email from Air Astana saying, "Thanks, Josh, for being kind and nice and for not being a princess." And and this was the time when I said, I have to distance myself a little bit, because that's not what I stand for. I always try to be kind to people and treat crew accordingly. And then that's the story.
That's pretty interesting, though, that they sent you a message, thank you for not being a princess. Were those the exact words?
Yeah,
thank you for not being a princess?
Yeah, I still have that email. But and then so I was always obviously calling him out sometimes that he's too friendly and is doing propaganda pieces of airlines and stuff like that. And
do you think he would have taken the bribe from Qatar Airways?
Oh, 100%. You know what the funny thing is?
Yeah.
Right after that video, who they got to make a nice piece about Qatar Airways?
Sam Chui.
Yes,
yeah.
Of course.
So he's compromised, basically, you're saying?
Yeah, and they gave him all kinds of access, which they usually never do. So they had to, polish their reputation, and he did that. If it was vice versa, let's say Sam gets into trouble somewhere, I have such a pro code, I would come and bail him out. Let's say he gets arrested doing a North Korea tour or Iran or whatever, gets into troubles, I'd be the first one who would publicly speak out for him. And because that's what you do, you stick together, But he made then a comment and say, I bribed Vistara, and made a video about it. When I took a Vistara flight, I talked about that incident and said, that's not right, that's not true, Show me your evidence. He made a public statement, show it to the world. I even emailed him, I said, hey, let's do a podcast together, we can talk about this. But this is the thing also with those armchair experts, whenever you call them out and say, hey, cool, let's sit together, present what you have. they always turn it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are, and the same with Sam. But then Sam published a video. He apologized for the comment. He said it was a dumb comment. It was unnecessary, and I accept his apology. And that case is closed for me. But still would like to do a podcast with him. Would be probably very interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to sit in on that.
I met him recently on the Air India flight. That was before I called him out, and he was really nice to me. I was nice to him too. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. I'm glad to hear there's a sort of a way forward there with that.
Always. My door's never closed.
Okay. That's good to know. So, all right. Are you, let's see, as we've been talking for quite some time. I think this is actually going to hold the record as the probably the longest podcast that we've done.
But that's what I like about podcasts. There's no pressure. I've listened to 4-hour podcasts and I felt entertained for 4 hours.
No, this is good. This is like my first time doing it too in like a proper studio where
it's fun. No?
Sitting with
you're a good host. I like it. You're well prepared.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was,
you look great today as well.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you.
Because people can't see you. It's just voice.
For the record, we were supposed to do video.
Yeah.
So I'd been fasting for days. Trying to.
You don't look like you were fasting.
No, I was. Yeah. You should have seen me last week. I was in Malaysia on the YPT retreat.
Yeah. But people that don't know Justin, he has a beautiful, beautiful mustache. He's well groomed, and you shaved it recently, didn't you?
That was because I had an incident when I was trimming it, and then it was not recoverable, so I just had to get rid of the.
What is that mustache? Is it like a sexual fantasy? Is it like something?
It could be someone's sexual fantasy. I don't know, but
is it Top Gun? You think you're Maverick?
No, actually, I grew it when I was, I think, 28. And I was in the U.S. and I was doing an Italian-American co-production, a low-budget Italian horror film that we were shooting in upstate New York. And these Italians were tough customers. The whole thing was funded by this Sicilian mobster, and like right out of the Godfather films. He wore like the white suit with like the wide brimmed hat and the carnation in his lapel and all that. Rocco Bombacci. But anyway, so it was financed by him. So that just kind of like sets the scene a little bit. But at the time I looked a lot younger than I was, as opposed to now where I look older than I am. But back then I looked younger, and I just grew a mustache to look older, which totally backfired because then the Italians just called me the little boy with the mustache, which was...
how's the feedback from your girlfriend on the mustache?
It's always been positive, but I think it's one of those things where, you have certain women that are into the mustache and certain ones who are not.
I bet. I never had a mustache.
Never experimented with a mustache?
No, that was Movember recently, no? It's December now?
Oh, yeah, it's December now, says, no shave, Movember, whatever it is. If you could give one piece of advice to aspiring travel vloggers, what would it be?
Don't listen to your parents. Don't listen to your friends. Just do your thing, I think that's what I did. Like, don't get intimidated by stupid comments. Find something that you're very passionate about. Be patient and just live your life, and showcase what you want. It doesn't matter what other. There's always people that have something to say, and if you think you can contribute something to the world, you have whatever it is, just go for it, And that's the piece of advice that I can give. Just pick up a camera. Your gear doesn't even matter. Everybody has a smartphone these days, and you can film great content on there. So just try it and be confident in what you do.
Don't look down. Basically,
don't ever look down on anyone.
Don't ever look down.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's a brutal field, but it's also a very rewarding field, And there's more haters you have, the more successful you are. So.
Exactly, you've done something right.
Yeah, and it bothers them.
Yeah,
and I like that when they get bothered by what I do, But we all get sometimes annoyed by comments that we read, but I don't even read most of them anymore. So just do your thing, have a good time, do good stuff, and there's very little things that are left, like in that whole space, and it's hard right now to start. But if you're good, if you have a good personality, you will always succeed, If you believe that you're good and you believe that you can do it, then just do that. Believe in yourself and create some content.
Absolutely, and I think that's great advice. And there's nothing wrong with faking it until you make it, right? I mean, it's.
Yes and no. No.
Yes and no.
Be a good boy. Don't fake it. Make it. My industry is hard to fake it. I mean, I can rent a private jet on the ground and pretend I'm flying private. That's
well, I don't mean fake it in the true sense of the term.
Yeah,
I mean, always carry yourself as if you are a top-rated travel vlogger.
Some people get it wrong always. They say fake it, and then they literally fake it.
No, I don't mean literally fake it. I mean, carry yourself as though you have a million subscribers right out of the gate.
The one thing I believe is always act like as if a camera team is following you. That's how life is supposed to be, So always make sure you have a good hair day and you look good and you're well groomed. Just always imagine you're on a podcast. That's the way you should speak. That's the way
a video podcast, that is, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and then you act that way, and there's so much advice out there. If you want to find positivity, you find them. If you want to find negativity, it's a tough field. Would I do it again? Probably yes, but maybe also not. It really depends. It's tough. It's not for the weak ones. But then once again, can you say weak? Like we are. See, that's how confused we are. When you say, "Oh, you can't be weak," now you are making discriminating and stuff like, it's like really, we live in a time where you got to be very careful what you say sometimes and what you do. And
you got to be careful with that toxic masculinity, Josh.
Yeah, no, I'm like
talking about weak people like that.
I think we became so woke that people like more outspoken people, conservative, what used to be conservative people, we perceive it as extreme fascism and stuff like that. So I think it's good if you have couple of years of conservative politicians in charge again, that we just toughen up a little bit again. And that we should never be worried about what we say, facts. This is one podcaster. I don't want to be associated to him, but he said, facts don't care about your feelings,
I think Chairman Mao said that.
Yeah, probably. Chairman Mao said that. But I think
Kim Il-sung, maybe.
That is, but I think this is why I do well, because I speak cold, hard facts instead of being everybody's darling. And being outspoken, speaking facts, it does help to improve things, whether it's in the aviation scene or elsewhere. So I think it's important that we are toughen up a little bit again. Can I say that?
Yeah, I think you can say that.
How do you think about this?
No, I think that's great, and I think you brought up a really good point that it's more important to maintain your integrity than be everybody's darling. I mean, that's a really good thing. Rather than,
unless you're a politician and you need the votes.
Right.
And you need to beat everybody.
But you don't. And, obviously controversy creates cash, and controversy can bring the views. And, those are all... it gets boring if you were just... sort of cozying up to all the airlines and just saying what you think they want to hear in order to get favors or, again, be everybody's girl.
I could have accepted the free flights from Qatar Airways.
You could have accepted the free flights from Qatar Airways. So anyway, I think that's a great point, that it's more important to maintain your integrity than become so obsessed and wrapped up with being a celebrity over, the journalistic aspect of what you're doing. And... I commend you for that. And I thank you for being on the YPT podcast. This is a special episode, probably our longest episode and our first sort of like in-studio episode here. And I thank you for being part of it.
Yeah, you are a really good host. I mean, if it doesn't work out with YPT, you can always start your own podcast.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
I'll keep that in mind.
I think you would do really well. And I think there's not much left of my voice. But the little that I have left, I just want to say thank you. Good questions. I like it. Good, juicy. I think I've never been this open and honest and funny. And trying, it's entertainment as well. Sometimes you have to say things that might sound offensive to people, but I think we had a great time. And I'm very much looking forward to people have to say.
So if after listening to this podcast, our listeners want to follow you and watch your videos and see what you have to say, where can they do that? What's the best place?
Onlyfans.com. Josh Cahill. No, I don't have OnlyFans. I get messages though, people asking me if I'm on OnlyFans.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's always, you can always keep that in your pocket in case you need it.
Like if it doesn't work out for me, I can always.
Exactly. I can go into podcasting and you can go into, your OnlyFans stage.
I don't have much to offer.
But where can people see your videos?
Just Google Josh Cahill. And they will find me there. And sometimes I run
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, the whole smash.
Do you do TikTok yet?
I don't dance on TikTok now.
Okay.
Yes, occasionally.
How about X?
I'm a huge fan of Gareth on X, not X, TikTok. I think
TikTok,
Gareth is really good on TikTok.
Yes, at the street food guy, you can get Johnson's.
Yeah, 100%. I hope he doesn't get it wrong once again. I'm a huge fan. But Gareth, if you're listening, after 3 hours to that, I'm sure you will on his next flight, right? You should just download the podcast and listen to what we have to say. So, Gareth, I'm sorry for last 2 days ago. I was very jet-lagged and I had work to do and I'm sick, as you can hear. It's the ultimate proof. My voice is gone. But I will take you out on a wild night out somewhere in Mogadishu.
Mogadishu is a perfect place for that too, because you can just walk right outside of the hotel. You can buy booze wherever you want. Yeah, it's the perfect place for a night out. It's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Would you say are those your main?
Yeah. I think YouTube is probably the best. YouTube is my number one.
Okay, and you're not on X?
I am on X.
You're on X?
I started to like X.
You haven't moved over to Blue Sky yet? You haven't been part of the the exodus to Blue Sky.
I think X is a good platform to I started to like it actually. I started posting there a lot more, not for political reasons or anything like this. I couldn't care less, but it's a good reach, and because I was posting so much on my Air Greenland adventure about on X, that the BBC saw that, and then I was on BBC News. Did you see me on BBC News?
I did.
Yeah.
The one you just did talking about Greenland.
Yeah.
I watched that this morning when I was putting my questions together.
Yeah. And that's that's the cool thing, people still use X. It doesn't matter from which spectrum you are, because I don't think the BBC is favorite of the people, all the fake news and kind of stuff, agendas and stuff like that. I think BBC is in the good books, but still, people use it. You can create good things, and imagine you're a content creator and you real life post our first flight to Nuuk, which was a big event globally, not just aviation wise. And then they saw me there and they say, "Hey Josh, you want to be on the show?" So X is something interesting, I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Just don't read the comments.
Yeah, I don't read the comments. I actually don't post that much. I kind of just surf and...
Are you an X?
Okay. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, but what's your handle there?
It's at Justin Martel 12 or something like that.
Right.
There were 12 Justin Martels previously.
What does the 12 stand for?
It was the suggested handle from X, because there were 11 other Justin Martels, I guess.
As a branding guy, I have to say that was a...
Well, that's a
bad move.
But see, I didn't want to have a branded...
but one day when the Justin podcast becomes a big thing, when you're the next Joe Rogan, or which other podcast is a big Impulsive, when you're the next one, please have a better handle.
I'll come up with a better handle. We'll
Very good.
Yeah, we'll do some better marketing. All right, and speaking of marketing, anyway, so this has been my interview with aviation expert and journalist Josh Cahill, and I appreciate you being on the Young Pioneer podcast.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
I loved it. And
right.
See you next year again for part 2.
For part 2, we'll do a follow-up for part 2 once the DPRK reopens to tourism and after we've done your first aviation tour, your Josh Cahill branded aviation tour. Thanks, Josh. And that was my epic and revealing and very interesting interview with YouTuber and aviation enthusiast and expert Josh Cahill. And now we've reached the part of the program where I like to highlight some of our upcoming tours. So right now what I want to talk about is our South Yemen Hydromat tour running February 22nd through 27th. Step back in time as you uncover the ancient mud cities and dramatic landscapes of the Hydromat region. Experience the UNESCO-listed Shibam, the Manhattan of the desert, and the historic city of Al-Mukalla, all while indulging in delicious Yemeni cuisine and connecting with the locals. This unique journey offers a glimpse into the rich culture and contemporary life of Yemen, all in a safe and immersive environment. Plus, the tour is all-inclusive, covering meals, accommodations, and yes, your visa. Also, taking security into account, we do cap our Yemen tours at small numbers. Next, we have the Alternative Egypt Tour, February 27th through March 4th, 2025. You can discover the hidden gems of Egypt beyond the iconic pyramids. Explore the City of the Dead and Garbage City for a raw look at urban life in Cairo. Visit the lesser-known Bent Pyramid and Red Pyramid at Dashur, and spend a magical night in a Bedouin camp in the stunning White Desert. This tour promises fresh perspective on the land of the pharaohs. All right, did you know the famous explorer Marco Polo traveled 24,000 miles on his journey from Venice to China and back during the 13th century? His travels took nearly 25 years, and he faced countless challenges, including treacherous terrain and bandit encounters. Today, thanks to modern technology and convenient travel options, exploring the world is much easier and more accessible than it was back then. So pack your bags and let your adventure begin. I'm Justin Martell, and this has been another, I must say, epic episode of the Young Pioneer Podcast.